Hit the music.
Yeah, when it makes me.
Do you ever look out into the vast sea of the universe? And challenge even your own imagination? You don't think we're alone, do you? When you hear that the government is doing something, you always believe it, don't you? We are your third eye. This is Chasing Prophecy. Challenging your beliefs and pushing the boundaries of your imagination. If it's unexplained, we're talking about it. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, we cover everything from political mayhem and tyranny to alien abductions and paranormal phenomena. You are not alone. This is the Chasing Prophecy radio program. And now your hosts, Jenny Nicasio, Sean Kelly, and Michael Anthony.
And we're live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chasing Prophecy on 105.3 Mississippi. No, 105 New Orleans, .3 New Orleans, and 107.7 Mississippi. Before we start the show, I just want to get a little to tell everybody that the month of May is mental health awareness. So if you know anybody that is going through a hard time, just give them a hug or just sit down there and let them talk, because mental health is brutally serious. How you doing today, Michael?
You gargled. I'm guessing you're asking me how am I doing? I'm doing
how
okay.
you doing,
I guess
buddy?
I haven't been feeling real well the last 4 or 5 days. I came down with something. I don't know what it is, but I'm fighting my way back. Here I am. I'm sorry, everybody, that I missed this past Sunday. But then, all in all, it may have been for the best, because thinking about being with Mom was probably better for everybody to do, or
Yes.
at least in some way, extend their love to their wives and their kids and everything like that. So maybe it was just a blessing that happened like that. But here we are tonight with one of the biggest heroes out there that I could ever imagine to be on with us. Ronald is going to be here in like 2 minutes. He's sitting in the green room waiting for me to quit talking. Ronald J Moorehead, that is. And we're going to be talking about some of the things that have happened over all the years, the sightings and things caught on film and in pictures, and how we just can't all be wrong. That's always my viewpoint, but there will always be more questions and answers remaining. So we're going to cover some of that. Also, that he is a book author, he's a teacher. He shakes hands with the best in the business. He knows things. He shares them to the public. And you've got to, extend all your love out. So remember, this is, get a hold of all your friends, get them listening to us here tonight with Ronald J Moorehead. He's going to be here in the next couple minutes. Sean, why don't you take it from that? I don't want to be raining on anybody's parade, but I can't wait. This is going to be fun. Lots of fun.
Okay. But without further ado, our guest, Ron Moorehead.
Oops.
Hey, Ron.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
How are you tonight?
I are fine, thank you very much. Good to see you guys are upright and everything going good.
Yeah, we're pretty chipper right now. I know for me, I'm totally excited that you are on the show. Michael has told me a lot about you, and I was watching some of your YouTube channels and reading little quotes and stuff like that. And you know what? I just, the more I looked at your work, the more I got really excited for you being on the show tonight.
Thank you.
But for me, I was a paranormal investigator. I had the paranormal group, Pittsburgh Paranormal Society, and I was doing it. I did it for over 30 years. Okay, but I had my group for 17. But now I retired from it, and so and I talked with Mike and a bunch of other of my friends. It's like I would love to do a Bigfoot investigation. I would like to go do a dogman investigation. Something different than hunting ghosts. Now, don't get me wrong. Okay, I enjoy it, and every now and then I'll go out and do something if people ask me to come along. But as I don't know, I've been hosting this show for over 4 years now, and we've had people on aliens, UFOs, Bigfoot, cryptids, and I don't know. It just sparked my energy to go back out there and do it. Hopefully, we
Good.
have a nice summer coming on, and then maybe I can go out there in the woods because I'm from Pennsylvania, okay, and it is like ranked in the top 10th with all kinds with Bigfoot, cryptids, and stuff like that. So maybe I can get out there and maybe pick one up.
There you are. Yeah. Well, good. Yeah, you got to get out and keep moving around, or someone will throw dirt on you. I think you're dead.
What kind, or a rock thrown at me? What got you into the Bigfoot?
Well, in 1971, I was involved with a group of hunters in the Sierra Nevada mountains of California. And a couple of guys came out who actually started the camp in 1958. It's about 8 miles into the wilderness, way back in the mountains, 8,400 feet in elevation. And they came out and said something's up there that we don't know what it is, but it's making some noises that bears don't make. And anyway, they came out and told the other hunters, which there was actually five of us, six of us involved at the time, and said there's some kind of monster up there. We don't know, but they all went back up, and I didn't go because I wasn't hunting at that time. And so anyway, they went up, and sure enough, one of the guys got scared off because it sounds pretty aggressive that they were hearing, very aggressive. And he just left a note and said, "I'm out of here." And he couldn't leave that night because you can't get out in the nighttime. Just you get lost up there in the mountains. And pretty treacherous area, really. But pristine once you get there. Very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, he came out and he said, "There's Johnson Brothers were telling the truth. There's some kind of monster up there, a giant or something. Huge footprints they're leaving and making these rowdy noises." And so the wise were because the guys that came out today, they was come out. I'm gonna go back up there and check them out and see if they're okay because they didn't know if they'd been eaten or they didn't know what they were dealing with. They weren't looking for Bigfoot. No one was. And I was friends with them all, and so he invited me to go with him, and that's how I got involved. I got up there, and the guys were okay. They were just packing to get out. So that's how I got involved in 1971. I seen huge tracks. I heard the sounds they'd recorded because they went all the way back up there with tape recorders. They started recording them. It wasn't the winter of '72 when snow keeps you out at that elevation in the Sierra Nevadas. And when Warren Johnson, the leader of our group, he sent a letter off to Ivan Sanderson. Ivan Sanderson, cryptozoologist, he sent the letter. He sent the letter to Peter Byrne, who was on the West Coast, and both those guys thought it was somebody pulling their leg. But Peter sent it to a man named Alan Berry down in California, who came down to interview us, and he did, and he got captivated by what we recorded. He said, "Well, I got to go up there. Would you take me up?" So we took him in summer of '72, and as soon as we could get in. And he started experiencing the same thing, but he was up there trying to find who could be pulling this off, who's pulling whose leg, because this doesn't happen to people. And that's what Ivan Sanderson and Peter Byrne thought too. And I didn't know this till later on when I read the correspondence between them, when they thought it was all just a big hoax. But anyway, he got involved that way. He actually started recording them and had the sounds analyzed, and he got Dr. Curlin at the University of Wyoming, got him to look them over and tell him one way or the other, is there anything going on here? I mean, he said, are they real or are they not real? And that's all he wanted to know. He was an investigative reporter. Actually had a master's degree in science too, so he no dummy, nice guy. And, Dr. Curlin studied for a year and found there was no foul play with them. They were all originally done right at the time of recording. There's no 60 cycle hum, which would have shown pre-recording or re-recording. They were not speeded up or slowed down. They were inside, outside, below, and above the average human range, and that's what he did. He's an electrical engineer, a scientist. Anyway, that's what he does. He's got high clearance and secrecy with the government to check out all kinds of things. And so anyway, that was a big step. He gave his paper, wrote a paper on it, presented to the Anthropology of the Unknown in British Columbia in 1978, I think it was. And it was produced in a book, Man Like Monsters on Trial, 1980 by UCB Press at Columbia, British Columbia. So that's all that happened. Even though he gave his talk up there to all these academians, they still couldn't get their head around out of their fixed paradigm of thinking this has to be an ape in the woods that we just haven't discovered yet, if it exists at all. However, it wasn't until I think it's 2008 when a cryptolinguist trained by the Navy to listen to sounds and see if the sounds was a code or if it was in a language, and if it was a language, transcribe it and try to figure it out if there's anything going on with it. Well, he heard it by accident, heard our sounds by accident on bfro.org it is, and he made a trip all the way up from Missouri, where he was teaching school, teaching languages there, just to interview us, and we let him go ahead and take the sounds and study them himself, and he said these things are speaking a language. He came back after he looked over and listened to them and did his analysis, and by the human definition of language, and that's very, very, very unique, and that changes the whole picture, because according to Dr. Lieberman at Brown University, only humans have the vocal mechanism for language, and we captured the sounds, all of us did, and with our tape recorders. But I got to say, without Al Berry, I wouldn't be talking to you this evening. It just
right.
he pushed him forward because he was wanting to find out what could be doing this and how it could be happening. And so anyway, when you put those three things together, Dr. Curlin at the University of Wyoming, and cryptolinguist Scott Nelson, and Brown University's professor of cognitive primates, Dr. Lieberman, says only humans have that. Well, that means these things have to have a component similar to ours, like ours, with language. So that means whatever made them, whatever it was, gave them that. Probably whatever made us. And I'm totally in on aliens being here. They've been here for eons and eons, and I've researched this now for 50 years, and I think I've got some of the dots together, and I'd love to talk to you guys about it. Because it gets way into the mysteries that were going on with us up there, and how they were doing what they were doing, these things. They come around our camp at night, and Al Berry, being a master's in science, he says, whatever you do, stay with science. Don't talk about these screwy things going on up here, the lights and the different sounds we couldn't identify and things like that. He says, people laugh you in the funny farm. So anyway, we didn't for a long time, but more and more I talk to people, the more and more I'm out there at these conferences and things, the more and more I hear about people having those same experiences that we were having. So I looked into the science a bit over 10 years ago now, when I started getting into quantum physics, and that's what brought me to where I am today with my thinking, as far as the rules that apply throughout the universe, from the atom to the cosmos, according to Dr. Stephen Christopher Blair at West Texas A&M, from back quantum physics. Newtonian physics, which we're all born to believe, which is our three-dimensional environment, works off everything being material, physical, measurable, and predictable. And that's just not the way everything is. Everything is on quantum science, and that's only a little over 100 years old. And Dr. Max Planck got the Nobel Prize in 1918 for quantum mechanics, where you get Newtonian physics. It's been around since Isaac Newton, 1687, I think it was. So you put all those things together, and we got some good mystery going on here. I think probably these things are probably a product of alien intervention into the genome of a primate, probably a troglodyte too, maybe. Anyway, they've made them what they wanted to make them. They've experimented. I think aliens are experimenting with different species on this planet for a long, long time. And you get into the ancient lore and ancient texts and different histories about how giants came about and how different things have been happening on this planet, and you realize that so much more going on that we just don't see. And you wonder when you're out in the woods if something's around you or not. Well, there's probably a lot of things around you don't see. We only see within certain frequencies. According to science, according to quantum science, everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. So when you get off into, if everything's frequency, everything including us, we are frequency. This table is frequency. Everything behind you is frequency. So get into that. If everything is energy, frequency, and vibration, well then, it takes it to another level too, really small level, but it goes all the way through the cosmos. Yeah.
Is it almost in your opinion then with frequency holographic is a possibility?
Yes, they say it is. Because nothing's real until you think about it, or until you see it.
You have to make the reality in order for it to become a physical component.
That's hard for people to get their head around, though, Michael. It is. So I try to lead people into this gradually, like I'm doing now, because otherwise, if you don't get some science behind it, people just say there's another guy talking. But I am another guy talking, but I've got science backing everything I'm saying up, I hope. And I hope it makes sense. And that's what I try to do.
So far, I think it does, and I'm following you very well. So thank you for how you're going about it for the audience sake and whatnot. But again, when you say in ways that this goes back to almost the beginning of possibility, others participating in the development of many different species on this earth, we may be looking at the Anunnaki or maybe somebody else. I know when it goes to the Dead Sea Scrolls and things like that, it kind of labels certain narratives of issues of things that were going on, certain things in the writing that show proofs. But at the same time, we can't take anything off the table here because, again, we still have all the questions with no answers to. So we got to keep our mind available, in my perception, keep our minds available to any components that put these pieces of the puzzles together. And I think I'm still myself a little bit lost because it's like things happen by accident, not by a physical occurrence. That we catch them off guard and they're there and there's a sighting. And even when you go into ancient texts, I think it was Gilgamesh, it was written, I could be mistaken here, that Gilgamesh had a best friend that lived, they called him a hairy man that lived on the outside of the woods who he had relations with. So, there's things out there. And then Leif Erikson, who described seeing when he came to what was not then of the Americas, but is now the Americas, where he had also encountered this species. So we have ancient times confirming a lot of things, including UFOs. And they've always been here. You're absolutely right. They've always been here. They're depicted in everything, on every notebook board across the world, if you only open your eyes to visualize it.
Yeah, a parachute only works when it opens. So we have to have our minds open. If you get all the way back into the cuneiform text, which that's where you get the Anunnaki and Sumerian culture back then, and you find out that just about all written languages came from the cuneiform texts, and they just evolved up through that. A lot of them did. There's several languages that just right from the cuneiform text, but you got to get into that and see how it's all been altered and changed over times and periods. Go way back into, like you say, the Anunnaki. Well, could they have been the fallen ones from heaven? The Bible talks about the ones that disobeyed God and started interfering with man. Well, that's what the Anunnaki did. They were giants too. They were big, and they crossbred with indigenous people, and there's where you get the Inky, and some of those other half-breeds, or I shouldn't say half-breeds. Hybrids.
And I think the other one's Enlil, the brothers who created the first division of divide.
There you go. It's fun. It's really fun to look back into this stuff, and to just we just got to get our heads out of the sand. Some people just won't turn on to this at all. And I understand they certainly have a choice. We all have choices, but I think it's very important that we know who we are, where we came from, and what we're here for. And I think I got some suggestions for that. We're here for experiences, and
Right.
that's what we are. I totally believe in reincarnation, multiple embodiments, so that you can fill out your karma. Because you can't learn everything in one lifetime, and if you do, then you don't have to come back. But you learn things like the masters taught, through love and compassion, and try to build your own frequency higher, so that your energy will transpose into something better. According to Einstein and according to physicists, energy can't die.
Right.
So energy can't die, and we are energy. So there's two parts to our embodiment. I think we have our physical embodiment, which dies. We also have the etherical body, which is energy. It's our energy body, our spirit, our soul. That continues on. If it can continue on, where does it go? Even physicists can't say that. It goes somewhere, but it just changes form. It can't die. So if we change form, where do you go to? What do you do? What do you do? Well, the more you can respond to things in this lifetime with positive nature, the higher you're going to be, the better you're going to be. You won't get sick anymore.
I believe that 100%.
Yeah, but you got to do that through responding to experiences, because we all have our experiences, and we just got to watch that we don't become a victim. Because you learn something. I tell my grandkids this: you either win or you learn something. No such thing as losing. So when you learn something, that makes you better if you can correct it.
No,
Right.
that makes perfect sense. Sean, would you like to ask the question or read anything off the chalkboard?
Someone, Facebook user, says electromagnetic field, Russell, whoever he was talking to, Russell. But no, what I want to get back real quick um, is the tape recorder. When you put that on, that was an analog tape recorder, correct?
Those are cassettes.
Yeah. Okay. So
That's all we had then.
it wasn't digital, right?
No.
So there was no way at all that you could manipulate that sound that you were getting.
Here,
Put it up the
why don't we have a listen to that sound?
Yeah. Can we do that?
In 1974, he ventured high into the Sierras, and for the first time in history, he recorded the actual sound of his voice.
Humans cannot mimic these sounds. The range supersedes what a human can do. We have cryptolinguists who's trained by the Navy to...
Just a little short clip there to remind everybody of what this phenomena was all about. And when you were recording this and you're hearing it, how long was it going on?
Oh, depends on the night. Depends on what we did. If we could jump out there and start shining flashlights, they'd leave. And it would go on after we got inside the shelters when it usually started. And sometimes it's going for an hour, maybe 2 hours before they got bored or we started snoring. So, yeah, it could go on for a while. We've got hours of recordings between all of us. I mean, plus a lot of it's redundant.
That's fascinating.
Do you think they were talking about you in your part?
Well, that's what we didn't know. We didn't know if they were arguing about what kind of salt and pepper we had to put on us, if they ate us, or if they were going to carry us away in their sleeping bag. And we just didn't know. And you don't know. We're all heavily armed. I mean, I got to tell you, we didn't go up there without guns. And we was ready to shoot our way out if they'd have tore through that shelter. So we never had to shoot at them, and they never came after us. So really, I think we just developed a trust kind of relationship there. We didn't know what they were still, and you still don't know, but there's something big. They left huge tracks around there, and no other signs of anybody manipulating anything. And plus, if you go to that area like David Paulides did in 2018 to do a filming, he says it's ludicrous. It is ludicrous for someone to try to find their way up there, figure you'd find if they knew where it was. and then do something like that without leaving any signs other than allowing us to tape record them and leaving their footprints. So
Right.
it's quite an imposing trip. And I know we took pack mules and horses in there when we went up there with his filmer. And,
Were the horses and mules going crazy when that talking
no,
was
they
going
were
on?
not. Everybody thinks they should have, but they were not. They would when a bear would come around. There's a lot of bear up there too. So the bear come around, they'd paw and scratch and raise cane. But these things come around, it's like they were frozen. They were just still looking towards where the sound was coming from. And that was everybody asked that question. That's a very good question too.
Thank you. To the Facebook user, Sean, have you ever heard anything like those sounds? I have not. Not at all. Not at all.
We
I'm
learned.
looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to doing it.
Well, a lot of people told me they've heard sounds. They call it the samurai chatter because I got some samurai cries on there. It sounds like a samurai cry. I guess Matt Moneymaker from BFRO.net.org, he coined that in 1995, I think, when he first heard it. That's when he started the BFRO, and that's the Bigfoot Field Research Organization.
Right.
And anyway, he's responsible for coining that sound, the samurai chatter. And that night, it was in 1974, 3 years after we'd already encountered them, and we were outside the shelter when they started interacting with my friend Bill and I. We packed some supplies on our horses and mules, and it was just a very exciting night because they knew where we were going, and I established that totally. They knew us when we were packing up down at the bottom, packing our horses and mules by the horse trailer before we got on the trail. About a couple hundred yards up the trail, our horses and mules got spooked, and of course we thought that could be a bear, that could be a deer, that could be anything. We didn't think a lot of it. Until I got about a mile up the trail, and then I seen this huge track perpendicular to the trail. And I got off a horse and looked at it. I was the lead horse. I was looking for any other tracks that might be going up that way because there is a trail about partially up that way, and that's what we were on at the time. And nobody else had been on the trail. This was except for some deer prints. And so anyway, that gives you a pretty good feeling they're around when you see that. So later that afternoon, when we got into camp, we heard the wood knocks and the yupping and the whooping sounds and rhythmic pounding on rocks and things. That's when we found out if you just be still and don't shine lights out at them or nothing like that, because it's just getting dark. But we found if you just keep doing what you're doing and they don't think they got your attention, they'll come in closer. And sure enough, they came in closer. That's the night I got to see one, and Bill did too. And they just are very fast and very stealthy. Anyway, there was 3 of them in the camp, we believe. We were recording a small voice, an adolescent, we think, and then a female voice, we think, coming down on her. And then the male voice who did the samurai cries up behind me, that's when I seen him going through the trees very fast, very smooth, and inhuman-like. I mean, just really, really unique. So anyway, I've been studying this thing now for a long time, and it's where it's taken me is to figuring out what they're all about and why they interacted with us the way they did. And so I got my theories on that, and been pretty much around the world. Would you like to share
a theory? Would you like
Which
to
one?
tell our people and us a theory that you want to share, maybe?
Well, yeah. Which one? You mean about who we are and why we're here, or how they do what they do?
The
theory
that.
Okay, here's one theory, and I'm writing another book right now. I have this out of that, so I don't give too much away. But people have told me over the years they saw them disappear. And if you've seen that 401 that hunted with David Pilates, he interviewed me, and then after that, there was a woman he interviewed that showed this pixelization. They call it the predator effect, and that's what people said they saw over the years. I've heard when I first heard them, I kind of wrote them off because I don't write them off, but I just kind of set it up on the shelf because you don't know what to do with that. But I don't write anybody off that tells me stuff unless they're high on crack or something.
Right.
listen to them very carefully. Uh, so, can anything disappear? Well, that's my first goal because why didn't we see them more often? I mean, we were dealing with them for a few years up there, and we had them very close to our shelter, but we never could really see them. We just got glimpses of them here and there. And I've wondered sometimes to hear about people saying they cloak. Well, how does anything cloak? Can anything cloak? Yes. According to Dr. Paul Dirac, UK, he actually retired over here at the Florida, and he got the Nobel Prize in 1933 for antimatter. Antimatter is a direct exchange from matter to energy, energy to matter. Now, when you go right back into physics, which we talked about a while ago, we are all energy. If these things have learned how to manipulate their matter into the right frequency, they could change it into energy only. Then they would disappear, and you might see them a cloaking effect or something like that. And that way their track waves would stop too. I heard a lot of people say the track waves disappeared, stopped. Then all the researchers will say, well, a helicopter must have picked them up. Well, no, because it happened to me. My daughter had a sighting. We found the trackway later on, and it stopped. And I mean, I got a picture of this in my first book, The Voices of the Wilderness. And I looked around because I wasn't no dummy, and I looked around. I could have jumped up on a tree, could have jumped to a rock, a plant. Where'd it go? Couldn't find a trace of it anywhere. This is what I've heard so many times before. They just stopped, and they do that through cloaking, but they do that with their frequency, their energy, and everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. So if they can create the frequency needed to create the vibration needed to change their matter into energy and back and forth, that's a quality that we haven't learned how to do yet. If we
We'll
can
get
do
Yeah.
it.
What's really fascinating, and I'm in total agreement on part of the theory of this. I'm still trying to understand a lot of it. I won't lie on any of that part, but um, I even encountered something that was quite suspicious, where I was only picking up a left foot track, and that even vanished. So the right foot wasn't even there; the left foot was, and it wasn't like it was hopping. Well, I can't actually say that that's a case scenario. The print looked to be bigger than a juvenile would be. It looked to be at least, I would say, 12 to 13-inch pattern. Um, it was in snow. The right side was not there. The left side was, and it just after so far it just vanished. And it just makes me wonder, for us as human beings, for us, our consciousness, within our ability, if we are to meditate or go into a state of consciousness of oneness and wholeness, and just being part of the vastness of the universe, where we get lost in whatever comes into the mind, and you just go with it in that daydream state. How do they have the capability to just snap it, like boom, instantaneous? They can do it, create it, and vanish.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make a little bit more sense of that. And I'm not saying it's not a realization. It's just, for me, I'm trying to figure out, because I may need to do that someday, just
Well, we can
vanish out.
all. Well, I think we can all do things that we don't know we can do yet. I think it's all
Right.
part of the pineal gland. I think the pineal gland has to be connected to the heart. The heart has its feeling of its own. It's got your gut feeling, that thing you feel down in here when you sense something should go a certain way, you sense something's fixed to
Yeah.
happen. But that has to be in coherence with the brain up here. You have to have a rhythm going so that they're in coherence with each other. Because a lot of times our brain has been taught so many things, it'll just wander off and be on its own, thinking about what it's been taught instead of listening to the heart's gut feeling. Sometimes your brain will say, go over here. Your analytical thoughts will take you over to the left, where your gut says, go to the right. Well, you find out if you went to the right instead, you went to the right place. I think we have to keep our pineal gland open, though, a receptor. I think that's a receptor. It's the third eye, the eye of Horus. And it's
Right.
just, it's our receptor. And we have to keep that open so the heart can read it and tell it to the brain, and then our brain can act on it. That's my that's my theory too, how that works.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I agree with that. Again, I'm still like logically trying to put as much as of the information together as I can. Let's hit a couple questions here. One was while you were out there experiencing this, and when you left, did you leave any food offerings or any gifting? Did that anything like that come into mind?
Yeah, we used to gift. They would gift us sometimes, but what we left for them was our leftover food. Generally, when we went inside the shelter, that's when they would come around and make their sounds too and take the food. So when we left up there, which we was always up there a few days because it's just such a trip, and but how do you know what took it if you leave it up there? You know, you have to kind of have something to go with it, some kind of evidence. So I believe in gifting. In fact, that night I was telling you about in 1974 when I got a glimpse of one and they were interacting with us outside. That's when I got the tape recorder out of my saddlebag and started recording the interaction we was having. I was yelling at them, trying to mimic what they were making the sounds like, and they would come back at me with a question. Sometimes you could tell it's a question. The cryptolinguist listens. Definitely, the inflection of it is a question. Sometimes I just don't know what they were saying. He could only transcribe a language. He couldn't translate it until one of them actually comes in and points to a tree and says, "Ooga ooga, that's a tree." You don't know that ooga ooga means a tree, so there's
Right.
where you go with that. But they were definitely trying to say something to me. And I didn't have the brains then to realize they were, or I knew they were trying to ask me something, but he thinks they were slowing their vocalizations down to something maybe I could understand because I wasn't getting it through my other process I just talked about. Uh, I don't
Did
know.
you in I apologize, but did you, in fact, in the analysis of the recording, did you do any speed up or reduction of speed to see if you could pull anything with more clarity out of it?
Dr. Curlin did that, and Dr. Curlin said there was no sign of it. The ones we recorded, no, we couldn't find any clarity with it. But the cryptolinguist,
Okay.
he had to slow it down to transcribe it. So he slowed it down about 50%, maybe a little bit more than that. That's Scott Nelson, and he's very highly regarded as a cryptolinguist. I mean, had him vetted very well. He's a two-time graduate of the Navy School of
Right.
Languages in Monterey. So he's very qualified to do what he said he'd do, what he said he did. So anyway, speeding up and slow down was the first thing that Alberta got accused of when he started taking this around to different professors, trying to get someone to analyze them, to look at them, just to see. And Professor uh, Lieberman, the one I mentioned a while ago, says only humans have the vocal mechanism for language. He's one of the first guys Albury went to, besides the Watergate, Tybal, the Watergate people. He went to them too. And they listened to it, and they didn't make fun of him or nothing like the other professors did. They just said, you need to get a institute somewhere to study this. That's where Dr. Curlin came in. But they all thought he was a disgruntled student trying to discredit them, somehow for flunking him or something. He never went to the school.
Hmm.
He also went to another professor in Washington, I think Dr. Nick Menifee, something like that. Menifee uh, at the University of Washington. He's also a language specialist, and he did the same thing. So he actually played the sounds to his students. Says this is how clever some people can be to try to fool you. So he
Right.
was running across this all the time. It's called cognitive dissonance. You know, they've made up their mind if there's something like that exists at
Mm,
all, it has to be an ape out in the woods running around. You know, so they wouldn't until Dr. Curlin came into the picture. He didn't have anybody that would give him an unbiased opinion, take it seriously, and just do a study on him. We sent it off to another scientist back. I forgot where she's at, but she heard him and she said, "Hey, I hear human sounds in that. I think they're phony." And we had already given her $2,500 to do a study on it. You know, Al Berry got a rate because he's a scientist. He said, "Give us our money back. That's not science. That's just your opinion. Do something constructive. See what's in there."
right.
And he just got really. In fact, he contacted all her sponsors and everything, gave them the riot act for sponsoring her because she's not a scientist, and that's too bad because she missed an opportunity. And so anyway, it goes from there. And I don't know. Did I even answer the question you asked me? I don't recall.
Probably. But here I got I think we started out on gifting, and yeah, that's fine.
Oh yeah,
And then we went into the speed up, speed down, excuse me, scenario. Excuse me, everyone. Getting over a little bit of a cold. So I apologize for that. I do have something though. Look, there's a friend of mine. I know he'd love to meet you someday. And he's a brilliant old soul, just a great, beautiful human being. Um, he does a lot of study, research, historical, and more. And him and I have done a couple shows now, and we've talked about a couple of these samurai chatters and so forth. Are you familiar with the Osterman case?
absolutely. I was up there.
Okay.
Totally.
Now, so then you're aware of that. There was reports of his encounter, abduction encounter, that they were making this same typical type of noise or
Chatter.
chatter. Yeah. So you have that, and then I think you told me that we also have a case now that somewhat has some validation to it in Ohio.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I thought it was plagiarized from our sounds because it sounded just like what we had. And I found the sound graph for it, and I looked through all the things we'd given out, and it didn't match any of them. So they did have something like that up there. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Well, thank you for validating that.
Yeah.
So anyway, Russell Easterbrooks was the young man I was speaking about, but I wanted to make sure that I got his comment out to you. He's a really huge fan of yours, and he writes for a Bigfoot magazine and so forth. He comes with great integrity. He really does. Let me just see if there's any other questions here, because a lot of people missed on the daytime broadcast that you and I did. Um, I think we're covering everything because
Yeah.
that has been brought up and asked as far as that. So you said you would like to talk a little bit more, and it's always great to know another side of a man. And I think you presented yourself that way when you and I were, one on one conversating a couple weeks ago. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about your thoughts of the UFOs and possible involvement as far as Bigfoot or orbs. Um, you made mention earlier that you would like to go in the direction of possibly, I think, ufology. And if you would, I'd like to give you the platform and let you take the lead on that.
okay. Okay. Yeah. I believe UFOs have been here, and they've been coming here for eons and eons and eons before we were ever even here, human Homo sapiens. And I think they've messed with the genome, experimenting. And if you get into the Anunnaki, which I didn't take this from them, but I just got this from somewhere. But you get into the cuneiform texts and talk about the giants and that stuff like that. But they are called the powerful ones, the sky people, the shiny ones, all that. Well, that's the same thing as the Bible talks about when you get into the book of Enoch or the book of Genesis, actually. You go a little bit further, the book of Enoch, and it talks quite a bit about the giants that fell out of God's, well, they didn't want them to do that, but they interfered with humans. And they inbred with them, creating the Nephilim, which were the giants of old, renowned. And that's where you get some of these giants that you read about nowadays. They were hybrids from the Nephilim. I mean, from the, I believe, the Anunnaki.
I agree with you.
They were, that's where they came from.
So,
So,
I have a weird thought. Not to interrupt you, I apologize. But when we hear about some of these, not always abductions, but where people describe not being taken, but reached by a beam of a light and then have certain dots or marks on their body afterwards. And we hear some of these chilling stories coming from countries now that the military's been getting involved. And I think Chile was one of the places that had something like that, where they had like 85 people that were being attacked by a UFO with a blue ray of light that would leave puncture wounds on their skin. So it makes me wonder, and I think David may have touched on some of this in his work. that they are still possibly trying to modify us somehow, using us as a testing platform for whatever, because maybe the future is going to change so radically that uh, Homo sapien is going to have to do the same with it to keep current, to keep possible life. Who knows? But we do hear things like this. We had Travis Walton on. How long ago was that?
Oh Lord, about 3 months ago, maybe
Yeah,
something
maybe
like
three
that.
months ago. We talked about his encounter and stuff, and nothing really came out that way. I wish it would have. I wish we could have got a little bit more in depth. I was the third wheel in that program. Otherwise, I would have been really dictating some questions out, because in my encounter, just observing one, and I think I mentioned to you that I had an encounter where I was playing with a light. I still till today, and went to the doctors repeatedly. They keep telling me, you ain't got nothing but dry eye. Just go buy these really good drops and you'll be fine. It's never changed my eyesight. Never changed
Huh.
my eyesight. And I'm not saying they did anything to hurt me, but this was the side that I first saw the light from. And I don't, to me in my head, it's just there could be a connection there to where, even though the light was so soft, but maybe they were observing me just for information,
Yeah.
and maybe they have that technology to do it. But who are they? Are they here acting on behalf of possibly who once was here, the Anunnaki, or a civilization like that? And now these are their worker bees doing all the work for them, and a limited possibility of who they are, of what's up there, is probably in a very small percentage. But I would say there's some very validated truths to scenarios, because I know I encountered it. But I'm just wondering in my head if they're still doing the same type of experiments, or are they just doing DNA samples and for some reason banking them?
I think they're hybridizing us, and I think a
Yes.
lot of people now are hybrids. People that you wouldn't know as a hybrid. Maybe they don't even know they're a hybrid, but they were abducted. Their mother was anyway, and anyway, I think that's probably happened. And there's not just one species of alien. There's hundreds of them, probably more than that. But there's probably been several of them visit this Earth. We have got the jewel of the solar system. I mean, it's just a beautiful planet, and we're screwing it up. I mean, I got to say that because I think they're worried about us screwing it up, and that's why they're coming around being seen more often, and so that like I think we're going to get inundated with them one of these days, and we're getting used to it. Our cartoons in movie theaters and cartoons for kids and all showing alien stuff, and we're not going to be surprised when we do see them because we know what they look like. A lot of them, they got the different species of those things been here, and some are good and some are bad. Because of what their intentions were is what they created. So if they've all messed with a primate and made Bigfoot or something like that, then maybe they gave a different one different attributes. Maybe they're aggressive. Some of them are very aggressive. Like, well, I was just up in Port Lock here with the Discovery Channel about 2 years ago now, I guess it is. Time flies, you have fun, right? And they had something going on up there. I could just about, I knew it. Anyway, I was on 2 episodes, I think, of that eight episode series. And they might get funding to go back up there again. I hope they do. They asked me if I could go if they did, and I said absolutely I'd go. Get a helicopter ride back in the wilderness area. I love Alaska, and
Yeah.
I get off track pretty easy here. You gotta watch me, Michael. But
No,
UFOs
don't
and
worry
Bigfoot,
about it.
I think there's different types of these Bigfoot beings. I think a lot of them have been not just hybrid species, but they've been diluted down with indigenous people, crossbreed with them, which means they would have 23 pair of chromosomes, not 24, like a regular primate does. And if
Right.
that's the
Oh,
case, I think the Patterson Bigfoot that was shown in the film was probably diluted way down. She looked more human-like. And the trackways, you see more and more trackways that are more human-like than the ones we had. What we had was big and splayed and five-toed, definitely, but just they look different. And I know,
we were talking before the show about David Politis and his the missing 411 behind.
huh?
I really, really enjoy. I watched it like 3 or 4 different times already, and I would like to get your um, what you feel, what happened to the people that went missing.
Mm.
Uh, well, that's a loaded question. I don't know. Uh, he's the one that's doing more of that, but I don't think it's Bigfoot necessarily, but I think there's a connection with a lot of these Bigfoot, what they call Bigfoots and UFOs. In fact, a lot of them, about 20% of the uh, Bigfoot encounters have a UFO connection, and they're
Okay.
sighted at the same time. That's out of the Huffington Post 2012. They actually started with a 1888 a clipping from the Eureka Times, I think it was, where a rancher and some Native Americans saw this small moon come down and 3 crazy bears jumped out of it. Well, that kind of, that would have been a UFO, I'm sure, and it's beaming down Bigfoots maybe. But I think there's a lot going on that we just don't see and don't know about. We're researching all the time, trying to speculate on all kinds of different directions here, but I know we only see within 430 and 770 terabytes. That's our visual frequency. Everything's frequency, right? That's our visual
Hmm.
frequency. And all these other frequencies are out there that we just don't see. That's where people see ghosts. That's where people see things. Animals
Have
can
you
see
ever,
those frequencies.
have you ever tried to ask the government for help?
Oh, they go, no, they know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing, but they're not about to help us. First of all, they'd have to acknowledge it. And if they do that, they're opening a whole can of worms. And they know that because they know what these things are, I believe.
Well,
Quite sure.
we do have some material papers out there now that are confirming that they do have an awareness to this creature, and it in the on the first off, they do a survival map. And I just sent Sean a copy of one of the earliest videos of it. Do you remember that the other day, Sean? I should have
Yes.
sent it to you too, because I spoke with you about this. Now they came out with this map in 1970, and it told you. And first off, it was phenomenally done, and it gave you the vegetation, told you how to survive off what food, what bugs, etc., what to beware of, what animals lurk, and even Sasquatch is on the map. It's a military grade map. I kid you not. I'll send you the thing, and
Love it.
it
Yeah.
you will see, um, and it's by their creation, not by anybody else's. Now, it's not in every state. From what I understand, there was 15 areas in different states that had training exercises where these maps were developed for. Washington State was the first one that
Yeah.
acknowledged the existence of Bigfoot. And one of the things that came to the forefront of this was, if you ever were to come upon Sasquatch, that's what they called him, Sasquatch. Um, it never turned out well. Avoid at all cost.
Mhm. That's down below Mount Rainier. That's where the military. Uh, that's where they do their exercise. I've got a lot
Yeah,
of, well, not a lot,
I
but I've
will.
got a few reports from guys out of there. Also got a report from an officer that was on a training mission with a group of guys up in the snow in Alaska who ran across these tracks in the snow, perpendicular to theirs, shoot straight across it. They started tracking it, and there was a group of trees ahead of them. They heard this big scream come out of the trees, and from the size of the tracks and the way it was moving, they didn't have bullets in their guns, so they turned around and went back while the guys got freaked out. But that's a problem with us humans too. We're a warring species, and we want to shoot things we don't understand, and that's too bad. But that's what we are.
Yeah, we have groups of Bigfoot hunters out there right now that That's their focus. They go into, I don't know how frequently they do it. I don't agree with it because what if we were to take out the last breeding female? Um, that would be devastating. Just saying, the possibility could happen. But these guys go in the woods. Their objective is to shoot, track, shoot, and kill. And
Well,
I can't support that.
I don't either. I think it's a ridiculous thing to even try to do. But that's what they do. If they want to kill things. That's what
Right.
hunters do. I stopped hunting years ago when I seen the life leave out of a deer I shot, and his eyes glazed over, and I just
Can't
didn't
do
like
it.
it. But I don't have a thing about guys that hunt for food. I don't mind that at all. But they're out there hunting for Bigfoot, hunting to kill things for the sake of killing it. That's not right in my eyes. And
No, not at all. I mean, think about it. It's just really,
he,
it's not right.
well, like Clint Eastwood said, you take away everything they are, everything they ever could be.
I
He said
do
that.
have to do a little stop here because I have to thank our sponsor for Chasing Prophecy on the second hour of the show. That would be Carnation. Thank you very much, Carnation, for sponsoring the second half, the second hour of Chasing Prophecy. Um, Another question that I would like to ask you too is I'm all new to this, even though I've been on for 4 years and listening to all the intelligent people that are very good in their field. Um, is there a difference between the dog man and Bigfoot
Yeah.
in your opinion?
Well, how they happened is what I speculate on, and that's again aliens interfering with the genome of a species. And if you know about the Skinwalker Ranch, the dog that was there, and uh, I had something similar to that happen. I didn't see it, but my granddaughter witnessed it. And if these things are able to change their energy or their matter into energy, like the law says they can do, uh, they could that's how they skinwalk. That's how they change into another form. Uh, I I don't really know because I just know that the laws exist in quantum physics that allows for that the exchange, direct exchange. That was established too by in 2012 by CERN in Switzerland when the Hadron Collider, made matter and hit turned into energy. So
Right.
it just it's a fact. So people that say they saw one disappear, I don't throw them under the bus. If they saw a trackway stop, I don't throw them under the bus either. Had that happen to me twice actually. Once when my daughter saw one, another time up at our camp. This was in the snow. So that's hard. Like you said, Michael, your trackway disappears, only left track. That's a bit of a it's energy. Everything is energy. You get into orbs, all that stuff. Like in 2016, when my wife and I saw this tube of light go floating by our tent, that was depicted in David Paulides' Missing 401 The Hunted. And what do you do with that? I'm sitting there with a pea shooter I say pea shooter, 38 with a birdshot in it just to scare bear away if they come in after food or something. That light goes floating by us. Well, it wasn't streaking by like a bolt of lightning. It just comes floating by. Well, what do you do with that? You're 8 miles in the wilderness. You can't leave. And we just watched it till it went away and gone down in the canyon. It's definitely a form of intelligence. And I've seen other orbs too. We had other orbs up there that I didn't see that the Johnson brothers said they were following around above their head, following them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a form of energy. And I've been up at Joe Hauser's place in Montana Vortex, and you can actually look out in the dark and shine your flashlight and take a picture, and there might be an orb in it. Well, that's because your camera's lens will pick up more than your eye will. Like I say, your eye only sees within a certain frequency. A camera lens will see better than that. A lot of animals' eyes will see better than that, better than ours do. And our olfactory sense, we got to understand our human limitations when we're out there. Our olfactory sense is a bear's olfactory sense is 20 times better than ours. I've sat on a rock watching a sow and two cubs walk towards me, and I was, I was downwind from them, not upwind, and they kept getting closer and closer. One of the cubs come over, he got probably 20 feet away from me before he ever smelled me. Never did see me though. I was as still as I could be. He stood up like this and smelled like that, shot back towards his mother, and they took off all three of them in the opposite direction. But olfactory sense is a big deal. So we're limited there. We're limited with our sound. We can only hear within certain frequencies. And you
Mm-hmm.
get ultrasound or infrasound, those things, we don't hear them, but they exist. So we
Right.
just need to understand where we are as a human and that's important to know that when you go out in the woods looking for Bigfoot or you don't look for them. You find a spot where you think it's maybe a hot spot and just sit there and be still. You can't be the aggressor of these things. They're either going to tune into your frequency and work with you, or they like you, or they don't like your demeanor, whatever it is. And no, I know what I was going to tell you a while ago, Michael. Is these gifting. I forgot to finish that story. That night I saw one when when they started pounding their rocks and whooping, and I vocalized back and forth with one. It's on my
Mm-hmm.
second CD, by the way, that I produced. And the next morning we found where they had been in camp before we got there. And I know that from a track I saw right outside the door. Bill, my buddy, he dropped the lens cover off his rifle, and it fell inside a track, which we didn't know at the time. Next morning, when I looked outside the doorway, there's the track with the lens cover tilted up on it,
Mm-hmm.
and that means the track made before. Looked up on the roof of the shelter, which we just re-roofed with heavy duty plastic earlier that year, and we cover it with alder brush. We chop it off over the spring and covered it with alder brush. But that was all dried up except for a fresh one that was there. I know where it had been twisted off over the spring and laid up on our. That was a gift, and just showing that they're there, and they. Oh, that was a heavy duty night. It was fun. Anyway, I got off the subject again.
No, you're good. Well, any,
Where you're right, you're on topic. I mean,
yeah,
this
you
is
are
this is
really
what we do. Talk about anything.
anything and everything. Well, let me ask you this. I think it was on your last Wednesday show when Michael, when you had Russell and your other friend.
Ernie DeVos.
Yeah, and wasn't Ernie talking about where when he engaged in the Bigfoot? Now, please tell me if I'm wrong,
Sure, I
but it
will.
but it didn't seem like um, they didn't want to hurt each other. Do you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah, yeah. He had this enormous gut feeling when the realization between the eye contact occurred. There was some hand gestures being done and so forth, which Ernie kind of took it as a form of language that he was trying to, focus on to understand, and that was part of his encounter because he just happened to be at the right place at the right time. Wasn't sure what he was hearing. Just thought there was deers on the other side, and it turned out to be, a Bigfoot encounter. And they got to look at each other and see each other, and the Bigfoot even approached him to the point where he could see the blue of his eyes. So he had blue colored eyes, and he could see the palms because he, like, hey, how'd you see me? Kind of thing. It was like some kind of thing there. But his words will be better than mine trying to fill in those blanks. But yeah, so communication. Um, I guess there's also some narratives written out there by people who claim that there is a sign language by Bigfoot as well. I don't know all of the background in it, but Mary and Fabian out of Pennsylvania, uh, Pennsylvania Bigfoot Association, sent me some stuff the other day to read on it, and because I got sick, I felt ill. I just didn't have time yet. Was to point me in some of the right directions. Now, I don't know if this came from Indian tribes or wherever, but she was trying to give me as much information as she could, and I haven't gotten to it yet. But reflecting to Ernie, Ernie felt that he was being communicated directly to him. They wanted to know, they didn't want to harm him, and Ernie was, not going to be stupid enough to try to harm him. They just in the moment when that precious time expired, he was gone, and Ernie stood there and off. But he, again, he was able to see it. He was able to have, uh, uh, what do you call the artwork done? Uh, lead, lead. I forget what there's a name for it, but lead drawings or something like that. So there has been something made up to as far as the features and the looks. And the biggest thing that sticks out for me was he said he could see the palm, but he couldn't see no lifeline in it. I think that was one of his uh, comments that he made. Pretty sure.
Interesting. Yeah.
Bill Rigby says from the natives, they did
Hey,
use
Bill,
sign
how are you,
language.
brother?
They did use sign language. Now, Ron,
Well, again, I appreciate everybody's input there. I got to read up on that and try to
yeah,
figure out how we came to that conclusion when we still have so many other questions unanswered. I just don't, I'm not saying anybody's wrong here. I take it all in. It's just I gotta make peace with how that happened and through the information.
We could all be
uh,
right.
Yeah, that's true.
so Ron,
Bill's a great guy too. Bill, do you have any other questions?
well, we'll wait for Bill to ask a question. Ron, so in your 50 years in this field, okay, how do you feel that Bigfoot look at us? Do you?
How do I think they look at us?
Yeah, like the little situation with Ernie. Do you think
Well,
they're here to hurt
I
us?
think they think that we're smarter than we're not smarter than them. I think that we think we're smarter than them, and we do think we are. We think we're king of the hump here, but on this planet. But they've been around longer than we, I think, and they have learned how to do things, or been given the attribute to do things that we're still trying to understand. And so I think that they kind of think we're funny in a way. We're stupid, and we are. We don't get it. They get it. They play with us. They toy with you. They toyed with us up there. We were trying to be serious about it when Albert was up there, especially because he was trying to study them, trying to see what's going on. And yet you find, we set up a camera trap or something and put the food down, but they come in and taking our food, and then set up a camera trap, and they go around another way and take the food. Just they watch you, they study you, and they very intuitive. And I'm not so sure that they're not just more than just intuitive. They seem to pick up vibrations of people. They certainly can read, I think, your energy. And animals, a lot of animals can read your energy. My horse could read my energy. They know when you're afraid of them or when you're not. These things, I think, know when you're out to shoot them or when you're just there for learn something. And it was in 2011 when I had my first real true encounter up there. And I say that because it was a Bigfoot encounter. It was the chattering I heard. And I wanted to learn more about them. And I went outside my little tent I had set up by myself, which is a little bit spooky. I say spooky. I figured if they could eat me, they'd have done it by now. So I went up there by myself. I had another guy lined up to go with me, but he backed out the last minute. And so I went outside and started yelling at him, and just didn't hear a thing after that except 10 o'clock that night. I heard this chatter again, and so I got inside my tent, and I heard this big clink on a big barrel we had outside. And I write about this encounter in my Voices of the Wilderness book. It's my chronicle. And I heard this at 4 o'clock. I didn't sleep much that night, I got to tell you. And I had a tape recorder with brand new lithium batteries, and it was dead. dead. And I just put the battery in out of the package before after I got the tent set up inside and checked it out. Everything was working until then. At 4 o'clock that morning, I heard this metallic sound outside, and I don't know what that was all about, other than it was different. Uh, so many different things have happened to us up there. It's a special place. And I used to tell people it doesn't matter where you go. Everybody wanted to go to Sarah Camp with me. And I don't take people up there for the obvious reason it would be inundated with researchers. And I took David up there because I trusted him. I took Scott up there because I trusted him. I took Joe Hauser up there. He did a flora fauna study for a scientist up there. He was a wildlife biologist one time, and I trust him. These are people that I've known for years and years, and you just don't want to give that side away. Of course, I don't know how it's changed since all the fires, because that whole area was on fire. I was able to fly over in a little airplane and look it over, and acres, there are many, many acres right around where our camp is, didn't look like it was burned up. The trees were still there, so it may have underburned. I don't know, but it's just I don't know. I don't know when I'll go up again. If I go, maybe this year, I don't know, but we'll see.
Let me know when we're going.
You're talking about the Albert Osman. I want to go a little bit further on that. We flew up there. I was with Al Berry, Peter Byrne, and a filmer, and myself in my plane. I flew my plane up there and found Toby Inlet, flew back in there. We had landed at Camel River and had two helicopters on standby so we could find the bowl that he was kept in. We was going to let the helicopter drop us in there, and then we was going to stay a few days, see if we could find some artifacts, something to establish his story better, because as we flew around there, and I looked for it all day long, looked for the bowl that he said he was captured. I couldn't find it anywhere. And so came back and started looking over the map better, and it could have been any inlet he went into. They all, who knows, he might have just looked at the map. When John Green interviewed him in 52 or 4, something like that, that was 30 years after he had been there. I think he just looked at a map and said that's where I was. And he said an Indian rode him up there, and that didn't make sense because of the distance where he had to go. He also said that he could see the ships in the harbor or in the ocean out there from a certain altitude, and I dropped my plane down in the canyon. You couldn't see any of that stuff from where we were in the airplane. I actually landed on a riverbed up there and got out and looked around, but it was. I had to throw that story in there because it's interesting that I called him John Green, and he argued. He thought I was calling Albert Osman a liar, and I said, no, I'm not disputing his story. I'm just disputing he might have been confused, telling you 30 years later where he was. And anyway, he got a little pissed at me for that, thinking, because we were questioning the story. But what do? You're either a researcher or not a researcher, you know. I mean, I've been in Peru, Bolivia, Siberia, Moscow. I've been all those places, and if you don't check things out, you don't know for yourself. And if you wanted to chime in on this or chime in on that, and if I'm not there and can't really check it out myself, you don't want to do that because you don't know. I was in Florida here week before last, and with Dr. Meldrum and David Paulides, and they got a little scuffle there at the end over Melba Ketchum's DNA. It was fun, but that wasn't fun for them at the time. But you probably heard about that already. But it was interesting. I was sitting right between them, and it was really fun. Well, anyway, it was a challenging night for them too, but they had.
Was it really?
I don't know how challenged Meldon was. Never been challenged like that before. So I'm not sure.
Well, it's opinions, and everybody has a different way of doing their homework. Just like when I made the comment about Bill, I mean, I have nothing against Bill. I mean, he does his thing. I do my thing, just like we're all doing ours. We have encounters, we have stories, and so forth. We make judgment upon the basis of facts. It's just like the same as a court should be, by the preponderance of the evidence. And we use the best that we have to come to a conclusion. But sometimes people just have a broader outlook or an indifference of how they can come to a conclusion. And, sometimes it's not always good. But, I reached out to Melba and offered her some support and so forth, and we had a moment and whatnot. What makes me feel terribly bad for her right now is something that came across from her voice, that there are people out there sending her death threats now.
Oh,
Why? Why, Mike?
Because of her opinion, because of her homework, because of what she's doing, you know? I
and
mean,
she should have. I think, and this is what I told David. I think if she'd left her opinion out of it, just let the facts speak for themselves. The DNA study, she might have been better off, because I know academia just gave her the thumbs down, and they should have done that, because they found human genome in it, so therefore it has to be contaminated, right? But the whole study wasn't what they wanted, and she knew what. I think she knows what she's going to be vindicated, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion, and I think we're going to find out a lot more about these things as time goes on, and more people are seeing them. And I tell you what, when they're in our environment, when they're in our third dimension, which that's what we all live in, 3 dimensions, and there's like a bunch of them out there besides the 3 that we live in, and we're headed for the 5th. We hope that's where that's where a lot of these aliens are coming from, the 5th and 6th dimension, and they can cloak. How do spaceships shoot off like that? Just all of a sudden they're out of sight. Well, they're changing their matter into energy.
yeah.
They're going faster than
Yeah.
light, and our consciousness goes faster than light. Einstein said nothing go faster than light. Well, no, he was wrong in that way. Everything physical, everything matter, anything like that can go faster than light. But if you get into your consciousness, it goes faster than light. Our thoughts right now are going faster than light, and a lot of things are answerable by quantum physics. And then you get into that, and you realize just how much more there is to know. And anyway, I carry on and on and on.
You do a good job at it, though. You
Yeah,
have a
you
lot of
do.
interesting thought.
Well, my passion, Michael, in this whole life now, I'm into my 80s now, and I just want the word to get out. What I think, if you don't live by your own truth, what are you living for? People who don't live by
Oh,
they don't live by
wow.
their own truth, and I live by my own truth. What I feel
Yeah.
is right. I did experience these things. I think that's probably why I'm on this program with you tonight. Is because of that, because it's taken me to this part of my life to where I've had a passion for this now for ages. I've gone all over the world. I've done a lot of things. I've been a very fortunate man. I think I've learned that the reason for life is to experience things and responding to the experiences properly. That's what's critically important. If you
Yeah.
don't, then you're not gaining it. You're not gaining anything. So
Now, I know in the paranormal field, there's a lot of groups that really do not like each other due to the evidence they pick up, just the way they run an investigation. I'm new to this Bigfoot stuff. Are there Bigfoot group out there that are the same way, that like go at war
oh
with each
yeah,
other?
oh yeah. But I
Oh
don't
my
deal with
God,
it.
yeah.
They just do what they want to do. It's their choice. And like I say, they have to live their own truth, and I live my own truth. And what you believe is true and what you believe is valid is what you live by, and that's
Right.
that's what I do. And
Well, see, me, I've been in it for a long time, and I believe in the unity of the paranormal teams. Do you know what I mean? Where it's not me against that group, me against that group, or that group against that group. Why can't we just all get together, sit down, put our heads together, and maybe come up with the answers that people are seeking?
my advice to the paranormal, the woo-wooers, or whatever you want to call them, is get into the science of quantum physics, like I did, because quantum physics is not the woo-woo, it's not the paranormal, but it's a science that answers a lot of the questions that the paranormal comes up with and what the woo-wooers come up with. Like the time I've been froze up there, me and Warren Johnson, we were walking out of our shelter where one of these things we thought he had to be behind this tree, and we just got frozen in our tracks, couldn't move. And what caused that? Scientists said it was probably infrasound or something like that. Well, maybe it was, but I think you got to go through all the Newtonian physics you can think of to start off with. You got to try to find what could cause this in your own real world. When you run out of answers, then you reach out outside the box and look into what else could be going on here. Because you're not going to see everything you see, you're not going to smell everything, you're not going to hear everything, but they're out there. Things are out there. You'd be surprised how many things are around us right now in a dimension we're just not seeing.
Like the other night, I'm sitting on camera with him. We were live, and he's Michael. I got to tell you something. I'm like, what's that? He says something just walked behind you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, well, that's my life. They're here. They live with me. And he saw a shadow figure go walking by right here.
Did you guys go back to that part and see if something happened there?
No, because like I told you, and I wasn't being rude to you. With all
No, I
respect,
know that.
when I said Sean, it doesn't even matter to me. I see them all the time, and I don't know why, but that's part of my fascination about
That's cool.
why I have so much interest in all these topics. Because
Yeah.
when you have several of these components happen to you in your life, you know that there's a world full of other things that are probably side by side with it that you just haven't learned about yet. And that's why it intrigues me to listen and to listen to the lectures and read the books
Yes.
of the earliest books. And I like to go to the past and then work my way up, because then I see how the validations and what other book authors do, where they got their information, how they progressed with it, how they came to their theories, how they made sense of it, and then I make sense of what they did, And I like analyzing stuff like that. Don't look on my floor behind me, by the way. You would be like, oh my god, all my notes and research for. Anyway, I know where everything is except for when I need it in that very moment.
Bill Rigby says, that is my stand on the research, is to share our findings to come to the results we are looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Bill
Share
got an
your
experience, so yeah, I understand why he's doing this. He's one of the people that had eyewitnessed the Sasquatch, and ever since he's been on a mission to support the Bigfoot research field and hold conferences and different things. He's doing a lot of good in Pittsburgh. He really is.
Are all pros?
No, I'm good. No, he's
Oh,
not
oh,
froze. He's getting ready to read for commercials on the next day. I already know what he's doing.
oh, okay.
He's
I'm looking at
tabulating.
the weather.
Yeah. No, he's just taking care of some things that we're going to go into for the third hour. We actually have been extended an hour because of such a large capacity of people have been viewing us. So they offered us a third hour of a continuation. So normally we have a guest on for 90 minutes to 2 hours. And the last hour, it's just him and I, and we critique whatever we're going to like just analyze or talk now, to fill in that void, because radio does not want to have a void.
Right. Okay. Well,
Yeah. So
somebody's going to say something then, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody's back.
yeah, every now and then he'll go MIA just in case anything needs to be, announced. That's all. But it's no
Yeah,
big deal.
checking my messages and all that stuff.
Hey, Ernie's in. I don't know which Ernie it is. I'd like to thank some of these guys for coming in tonight too, Bill, and always for sharing out the program and format for us. We really appreciate it. He has Agents of the Unexplained, um, part of his paranormal research group that he does on Facebook and YouTube, etc. I was listening to Billy Carson last night, and they're putting together through Forbidden a outreach program to a lot of the unknowns who are out now doing podcasts and so forth. And I think that's a really, really generous thing for somebody to do. The same as what you do, coming on here, being so gracious. Billy now is going to acknowledge people who are always overlooked out here, who work very hard that he finds, and give them a stepping stone with some of his help.
I
And
like Billy Carson. He's
yeah,
a smart guy, very smart. Yeah.
yeah, he is, and he came from a very difficult background, but he learned at a young age. There was one way to do it in life, and that's doing it for yourself and believing in yourself, focusing into the future and ahead. That's why I do what I do. I mean, I may not be, a big guy, and that's okay. But like I said, I've had a pretty interesting life, and when my family looks at me, I was the black sheep. Michael was the black sheep, the long-haired kid, never wore a shirt, always showed up to work, did my thing, got picked on, got called the names. I was always the one with the weird nickname. And here I am, doing things that I enjoy. Probably smarter than I ever was. And because the truth of the matter is, I didn't like school. Now, if they would have did this, if they would have did ancient history in school, really taught things, except for a I don't know, history book or whatever you call them, which to me had no. I read the book, I think, within the first 10 days of the school year, and I knew what was in the book, and I didn't have any more interest in the class. It was like nothing there. But when I do this kind of thing, it's endless.
Yeah.
A book has a beginning and a book has an end. And if they're going to teach you only from that book, it has no gain. What happened to everything that's left out or that you didn't mention? So if people were to go off books and go into the topics, it's endless. It's an endless supply of knowledge and learning. If people would only do that and I hope our educational system catches on to that soon someday, because
I hope so.
I know we're having a lot of difficulties with the teachings right now, and that really upsets me. But there was a question that I wanted to ask you. It's not coming to my head right now. I'm going to think on it. Sean, do you have anything you'd like to
Yes.
ask Ron?
Yes, I do. Ron, you're an author, correct? You write books?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Would you like to tell
Yes,
our
they are.
audience? Would you like to
Well,
tell our audience?
I produced 2 CDs with the sounds on them and narrated, one by me, one by Jonathan Frakes, Star Trek Next Generation. But I've written 2 books. Well, my first book is my chronicle, which is called Voices in the Wilderness. And it's the years I've been doing this. It's 40 some odd years when I wrote it. And it's got sounds, a link in there. So when I get to the context of the sound I'm talking about, you can hear the sound if you go to the link. And my second book is what we've been talking about just a lot tonight. That's Quantum Bigfoot, the Quantum Bigfoot. And it gets into the ideas that I got behind how they do the things they do, and it gets into the mysteries and how quantum science will answer a lot of the paranormal, a lot of the woo-woo questions that are out there. Because I used to be called a woo-wooer, but I figured was a compliment in a way, but another way it's not, because quantum science is a known science worldwide, and it just will answer a lot of the paranormal stuff.
Right.
How to ghosts appear, how does things disappear, how does anything happen? It takes classical and quantum sciences together to have clear perception. That's Edgar Mitchell's statement. So I think I encourage anybody out there who's investigating this subject to realize that you have to realize what's there, because we live with what we can see, feel, and touch. But realize there's things out there that's out there that we can't see, feel, or touch. You might feel it, but anyway, you're not going to necessarily see it. The Quantum Bigfoot, they're all on my website, ronmoorehead.com. Spelled with 1 O, by the way, Morehead. And that's where you order everything. The CDs are available as downloads, and I sell quite a few of those. People download the sounds, and the narrative goes with it. And also the books are downloadable, even though you can get a hard copy, paperback. They're sent through Amazon. And,
so, excuse me, real quick. So your website is Ron Moorehead,
.com.
RO.com. Okay.
RONMOREHE, no space, just Ron Moorehead, no space.
Okay, I just posted his website. So if you're interested in getting some of his books, feel free and go get them.
Well, I'll be speaking at the North Carolina this weekend in Marion, just out of Asheville. So anybody up that way ought to come out. It's a Bigfoot festival there, and I'll be speaking Friday evening. Uh, so that'll be fun. And I go to Washington after that, and then I go into Texas.
Is that a one-day event or a weekend event?
The one in Marion, it's a weekend event. I'll just be speaking the one evening, though, Friday evening. There's no speakers on Saturday. It's just a big festival, unlike most of them, because most of them are held on Saturday and Sunday, and like the one just did out of Florida. So it's a lot of fun. I like being at those things. I really don't care about traveling to them so much because that's not so fun at all nowadays with the airports where they are. Years ago, I had my own airplane. I used to fly to these things on my own dime, and that was a good way to do it. I could take off right from where I lived and and fly right to where I wanted to go. So I don't mind being at the places. I just sometimes don't like going to them. I want to be there. I don't want to go there. I want to be there. I don't want to go.
Well, it's like a reunion with all your old buddies.
Well, yeah, there's not a lot of us. You're right, Sean. There's not a lot of us doing this, and I do see a lot of these people off and on. And I'll see more of them before the year's out. I know.
I would love.
Bob.
I'm sorry. I would love to be a fly on the wall, listening to all aliens.
Well, you can do that if you want to travel.
Yeah, I do. It does start your car. It's that easy.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks for that. It's informative. Even for me, it's informative because it's fun being able to talk to people like this out there, and it's fun to answer their questions and things like that. I love it. What we have to watch for in this embodiment is ego. We got to keep our egos down and master your ego. But it's like somebody said, "Well, what about your ego?" Because some people are just in it for the ego, trying to be somebody that their mind made up. Well, it's like combing your hair to go to church, but you don't go to church and stand up and tell everybody how good you look. I think that's the difference between being okay and mastering your ego, because it's fun being asked to go to places and do things. It is, and it's all I do nowadays. I retired from business years ago, and I got into this what I'm doing now, talking to people and visiting and trying to answer questions. I get a lot of emails every day from people wondering about this or wondering about that. And I try to respond to all of them. I try to. So it's a lot of fun. And you can reach me also through my website, ronmorehead.com, www.ronmorehead.com.
Oh, shit.
What, did you put it up wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, but people just write Moorehead. You're going to find I'm all over.
I'm anal about this.
Something else. The subtitle of my book is bringing science and spirituality back together, because quantum Bigfoot gets into who we are etherically, which is our consciousness, and we don't have to be religious, but you're spiritual whether you like it or not, because you can't die. Your spirituality can't die. Your consciousness can't die. So that's kind of important, I think, to know who you are as a human, especially if you're going to go in the woods looking for Bigfoot. Know who you are as a human, what you can do as a human, and know your limitations as a human, but then realize you're more than that, and start working towards getting more than that. And we've been taught how to do that by the ancient masters, but very few of us can walk on water right now. I get wet every time I try.
I've always sank. I hear you.
One more question.
I can't turn water into wine yet either. Huh? Okay. Ron, have you ever had contact with? Yeah, they haven't been listening.
Yeah, well, maybe they just. I'm trying to figure out who's Facebook user. We're getting a lot of unknowns tonight. Like the names
Yeah,
aren't
I
coming
know.
through.
Well, I've never shook hands with any of them. I mean, Bigfoots, but I've got glimpses of them, and they've been around our camp. We verified through science the findings that we've got, the sounds that we've got, the recordings we've made, and it's just that's the closest I've been, and I've never done anything else except travel the world looking for more.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Well,
Um,
we got a
uh,
couple more minutes.
yeah, but
Uh,
before he goes, I want to I want to ask you because I know you have an interest in ufology. Do you watch the skies much?
Uh,
Just
no,
to
not unless it's
enjoy
really
an
signed up.
evening, have a fire outside, and just look up and observe.
I haven't been doing that in a while. I mean, it's fun. Enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. Just that I go to bed.
Yeah, I do too. But I mean,
Go to bed
you
with the
know,
chickens.
here's yeah, I get where you're coming from. It's just me is that's part of my fascination. So I gotta allow for a couple hours of the dark. You know what I mean? I go out there. I want to sit down. I want to look up, and
Good for you.
hope that I see something. Because
Well, and
I
you
have
will.
I do. You're
You
absolutely
will.
right. I do. Some things I can analyze what they are. Other things I still don't know what they are. I
Up at
don't.
our camp one time, Michael, I saw a UFO come down. A big ball of blue light come down. We lost it behind the trees, but at the same time, this Bigfoot stuff was going on. So I really feel like there's a connection. I've also interviewed a guy, a firefighter, who hunts probably 15, 20 miles from where our camp is as the crow flies. And he watched the Bigfoot and the UFO in the daytime for probably 20 minutes. And I know the mountain where he did that, where it happened, but a lot of reports of UFOs and Bigfoot come together. But I don't think you asked me earlier if there's a element in Pilates where these people are missing. You don't know that. I think UFOs have more to do that than with Bigfoot. Bigfoot and UFOs have a connection, but I'm not sure that I don't think Bigfoot is protecting them. Even though there's that little boy in Yosemite that got lost for 3 days, and he said a bear was keeping him warm.
Right.
That's kind of questionable, isn't it? However, a lot of them are here to help us. A lot of people claim that they have a guide that's a Bigfoot. A lot of Native Americans do, and a lot of people just don't want to believe it at all. And I know people very close to me that just can't get their head around something out there that they can't see, and they can't understand quantum physics at all. And it's not that hard. You never understand it. You have to conceive it. It's like when I was a little boy, I used to wonder how far it was to the end of the universe. Well, classical science can't tell you that. Nobody can tell you that. You have to conceive that it's got no end. How does your three-dimensional head get around that? What you think of has an end.
Right.
Cosmos has no end. That's hard to comprehend. But you have to conceive it. It's like a lot of things in quantum physics. You have to just believe the science and the mathematics that's go behind it when they establish things. And anyway, I just trust a lot of that, and I trust that that's the answer to what the enigmas were we associated with these Bigfoot creatures at Sierra Nevada mountains.
So
well,
I,
go
I,
ahead, bro.
I apologize, Sean. All right. I was going to ask you something quick. When we look at this whole realm of everything involved, it has been said that there's a treaty that was agreed upon by a president and a race of aliens in exchange for technology that they could abduct up to 86,000 people. Now, I don't know how that particular number came up, if it was yearly, etc. But they were supposed to keep names and records, and it seemed that the extraterrestrials weren't holding their end of the bargain. Have you ever heard anything about that? Because there is talk of that out there.
And that would have been Eisenhower. He met
Correct.
them. Yeah, and so did Kennedy. I think he got into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Really?
So yeah, I don't President Kennedy,
Huh.
and But Eisenhower's the one that started it all. He got the Majestic 12 going and all that stuff, and he
Hmm.
he had an encounter, or he met them, I guess. And, Roswell, we just found out through our government. Nice of them to tell us it wasn't a weather balloon. Isn't that great? We now know it's a UFO, and we can talk about it freely now. I didn't used to talk about that stuff. Now I've got it in my program. I talk about it as it presents itself into my program that I present. And they're out there. They've been out there for eons, and they're here now. They just cloaked out of our visual range, and that's what I believe, and that's what I've heard, and that's what I've listened to, and yeah, uh, there was four aliens, I think, in the original crash at Roswell. One of them survived, my understanding, and
Yeah.
lived till 53, I think it was. Yeah, they traded their, and we've back engineered a lot from their crashes they've had. There've been a lot of crashes, aliens. And
Yeah.
now we've got what we've got, technology we got. They're kind of afraid to come around us because we shoot at them all the time or bring them down. And we found a way to bring them down, I think. And so they don't want to really come down like that. They probably beam them down like Star Trek, I don't know. But they beam people up probably like Star Trek. I say that because I'm kind of a Trekkie fan too. I like Star Trek.
I never got into Star Trek at all. Never.
Never did?
Nope. It was boring as hell. Nope.
Well, I like the last, well, not the last one, but the number two with Jonathan Frakes and Picard.
Hmm.
They had a lot of good writers in their series, and a lot of good writers out there. Too bad they're on strike right now, 'cause that's going to throw a kink in a lot of stuff going on. The writer's strike.
Yeah. Yeah. I was through that on one of the movies I did, and it had it was an oddness. I can't remember what exactly it was, but the Pittsburgh Penguin hockey team was supposed to be in the movie, and I don't remember if it was a walkout on the sports or what, but we had to bring the minor team in order to shoot the film, Sudden Death.
That was Von Damme, Jean
John
Claude.
Claude, John Claude Van Damme, yeah. Um, and what a prince he was, but nevertheless, nevertheless, I mean, he could be a good actor. Just I'm not going to get into it. He might come hunt me down. But
Personalities clash.
well, he was different type of man, and he was gaining steam, and um, he was becoming a world power in the movie industry. But I think in ways he let it get to his head and some other components that controlled him, and he made our lives hard. He really did. He made our lives hard on set. I mean, I was on that set, and I did locations. I did everything. I mean, setups, explosives. I did pyro, and just couldn't get him out of the trailer.
Mm.
You'd stand there all night to wait for him to come out to just finish a minute and a half shoot. And, I don't know. But anyway, so there was some type of strike. And you're right, it destroyed everything we were doing. We had to supplement this for that and go back and forth on everything. Just some of the things you got to do. It's not always easy living, like the song says. That's for sure.
Yep.
I keep looking at those guitars, right? I used to test guitars for Fender Company years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah. And
Well, that's a homemade Dane.
yeah, you told me about that earlier.
Yeah, that's a homemade Dane. They got the Marzio pickups in it. It's a molded neck. I don't know if you could see it.
I keep moving
Not
over this way.
really.
Like I can see more of it over here.
A little bit more, buddy.
So you can't adjust the neck, I guess, huh?
Oh yeah, you can adjust it. Yeah, there's a rod that goes down into here to what's like a lock nut
Yeah.
mechanism
Okay.
right
That's
through
right.
here.
There you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can
Anyway,
tighten it up.
it screams metal. It really does. It screams metal. It's not like one of the old Gibsons or SGs where you can like, it has like a richer tone and you can play with it if you want to get a nice stone sound of the Stones or some Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then still do some, nice Led Zeppelin stuff like that. But no, this is it's gritty. But no, it's not a
Nice.
bad. It's old. It's old like me.
You're not old.
Well,
No,
you're
but I
not
mean,
gonna.
I'm not young no more either. I'm not young no more.
Well, none of us are. The alternative to not getting old isn't so good.
So how
If
many
you're addicted
special
spirit.
things do you have hidden under your bed?
Nothing.
Me, I've been giving my stuff away.
Oh,
I
geez.
gave away my. I had Stevie Ray Vaughan. I gave it away. I've had. Let's see. I built my own special guitar when I was working for Fender. Put some humbucking pickups in it and all that. And it burned up my house fire. I had a house fire, burnt a lot of stuff up. I could burn everything up.
Oh, wow.
And it gives you a lot of empathy for those that have house fires. When you lose everything, you start looking for your toothbrush, you realize you don't have a toothbrush anymore.
Yeah.
All right, I have a question for the both of you.
Okay, we'll get off ourselves.
Here's the question. Who is the best guitarist out there? I mean, dead or alive. Who's the best?
Guitarist?
Or, the jammer, like freaking Stevie Ray Vaughan, and where they could play the guitar really, really good. Like, who's Jimi Hendrix?
What style are you looking for?
Like riffs, like heavy metal. I'm trying, yeah.
Well, Michael could answer that better than me. I'm not so much into music like I used to be.
So your question is, who's the best riff artist out there?
Yeah.
I've been listening to some very talented people on TikTok. I don't know who these guys are, including some children that will blow your socks off. So I'm just going to say right now, I can't give a conclusive answer. I've listened to some people. I don't even know who they are. They don't play under nobody's labels. They just are rock stars. They're born to do this. And, they have every bit of the talent of a Hendrix, of a Stevie Ray Vaughan, since you brought that up, Van Halen. Just to mention a few. So I can't even give you a logical answer.
Okay.
I mean,
me neither.
I watch this stuff every day, and it's like, oh yeah, I better go cut my nails because I couldn't do that last night.
Right.
But the problem for me is I've had reflex sympathetic dystrophy, and they've cut my hands open a lot, and I'm having disformity. And when I try to, so doing four finger chords is like almost impossible now, but I can do 3 fingers still. My pinky finger doesn't like to move when my brain tells it to also.
Okay.
So I'm starting to get that. It's kind of like a deluxe. There's a name for it, like
arthritis,
anyway.
maybe.
Well, your head's telling you to do your finger to do it, and it doesn't know how to respond to your signal. It's like I'm losing the communication between that fundamental and the finger. I mean, it's what happened. I got hurt really bad once, and they told me, well, it's carpal tunnel, and you got it in both hands. Then they told me, no, your neck was broke. And then they told me it was something else. Then they told me, yeah, your neck was broke. You should have had a halo on. And, we're just surprised that it's healing. Your spine's healing the way it is. And, but it didn't really. It never made me completely whole. But again, I can do things. I can work. I did everything that they told me I wouldn't be able to do. I just could. Yeah, I just.
They tell you the worst thing they can tell you. So if you get better, you'll feel good about it. But you can do so many things. I don't trust doctors; they're just educated pill droppers sometimes. But I got my back thrown out here just a few weeks or a couple months ago now, and the government tells the doctors what they can and can't do anymore. You go to a doctor. I
Yeah.
said, give me a prescription for something to help my pain because I blew this disc out. And he prescribes me 2 Tylenol off the shelf.
Are you serious, man?
Well, until I could go to pain management, right? Then I don't
Well,
like
Wow.
to talk
everything's
about
pain
that.
management now. No, there's
Yeah.
no normalcy, not even for a man in his 80s who pulls his back and has a nerve injury.
Well, yeah,
That's
they can't give
ridiculous.
me any drugs because they're afraid I'll be a drug addict. You got to give a urine test and everything like that in order to qualify for certain things. They have a
Can I,
protocol back here that's just, I think it's
wow.
ridiculous. It's like if
What
you don't
I
go through
what,
these steps, it's been over 2 months now since that happened to me, and I'm still in pain. But I can't talk about that because I don't like to talk about the dark side of things. Just whatever you feed your energy, whatever you feed your thoughts in, is where your energy is going to go, and you want your energy to stay high,
Right.
right, Carrie? That's my
yeah.
wife walking by there. Beautiful woman.
800, here's what I do. I use for pain because I got arthritis. Is 800 milligrams of ibuprofen.
Yeah,
That's what I use, and it works.
You want to
yeah.
hear something that's really strange, guys, and I want you to be careful about what you just brought up, and what they told you to take. Now, there's some scientific information out there on ibuprofen and aspirin. By taking it over a period of years, causes blindness.
Oh, I did not know that. Did
Yeah,
not
they're
know
not
that.
going to tell you, but it's happened. I was
Well, I don't think
listening to a
anything,
show.
any of this, any of this pharmacy stuff is just all for money, and a lot of it helps. Don't get me wrong, but once alien and AI gets involved in all this, a lot of this stuff's going to change for the next
Oh
generation.
yeah,
And AI is really going to make some big changes. And alien comes down, and a lot of the aliens are AI, and you won't tell the difference. So, like
these new hybrids.
anyway, well, they're not even hybrids; they're just well, they are, but they've learned how to, I think, transfer their consciousness into an alien, their consciousness into an AI. That's the scary
Yeah.
part there when consciousness, because the higher we can get our consciousness, the higher dimension, I'd say, and you do that, everybody has every dimension within themselves. It's just attitude and where you go with it is going to take you to a higher level. So we all have to get higher level, and you do that through love and compassion. Love and compassion. I'll go back to that. Don't entertain the dark side too much because wherever you put your wherever you put your consciousness, wherever you put your energies, where you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
My bedtime. It's
absolutely.
my bedtime.
Yeah, I know. Just
Okay.
thank you for being on the show tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute joy.
I'm glad you enjoyed. No, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself.
I wish
You would
happiness
like.
for everybody. Yeah. Huh?
Cool.
Well, you
So
guys
how
take care.
can? Okay, real quick before you leave, how can somebody get a hold of you and your books?
Oh, again, okay. Well,
Hmm.
ronmorehead.com. www.ronmorehead.com. No space, no dot, no nothing. ronmorehead.com. And my books are there. It's in my store that's on there. And you can download the CDs, download the books, or you can order hard copies through Amazon. It's through my website, but that's the best way to do it. Amazon takes a big enough bite out of it as it is. But
Cool.
anyway, and you can also contact me through my website, and I get those quite regularly.
That's awesome.
So glad you had me on. Glad you could
I'm,
ask me
Yeah,
some
thank
I
you
serious
for
enjoyed
questions.
it.
being on.
I
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it. I really
I
did.
did too.
And I want to say this with an open policy of honesty to you. If you get bored and you want to do a road trip, call me.
A road trip to where? Where
I
would
don't
you go?
know.
I've been everywhere.
Pick a spot and we'll head there.
I've rode giant manta rays down in Mexico. I've spoke at the Darwin Museum of National Science in Moscow. been in Nepal, trekking through the whole country of Nepal, actually, and I've done a lot of things. I've traveled this whole United States too, by car and by plane. I've owned several airplanes, and I just I've had a lot of fun. I've had an enjoyable, wonderful life. So
That's all
the
that
only reason I'm
matters,
around
man.
nowadays so I can talk my talk, do what I'm doing with you guys. So the more I can do
Well,
that,
are you going to be up?
more.
Are you going to be in Pennsylvania this summer?
I don't have anything planned there now, unless somebody asks me.
Okay.
That's a hint,
I,
Mike. That's a hint to you.
well, I need a convention or something to go to. That's where I sell my books
No,
most
I
days.
get that. I get that. I get that.
Yeah, that was
If
a
anybody hits me up or something, I'll definitely make sure that you're
Well, I'm
somebody.
still vertical. As long as I
Okay.
remain vertical, this is what I'll do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we all hope for that, don't we?
Well, yeah, you do, because you want more experiences. That's what we're all about, experiences.
Yes, exactly.
It's the secret of life. Why are we here?
And
We're here to get
hopefully I'll
graduate,
see my
get to
I'll
a
see
higher
my
dimension.
Bigfoot.
Oh, you want to see Bigfoot?
I want to see
Well, you
my
can't make it
Bigfoot.
happen. I got the do's and don'ts in my book and my program.
Okay,
What
I
not
will
to do
definitely
is just
do
as
that.
important. What not to do is just as important as what you do.
Mhm.
Do. That's a word, isn't it? Do.
Remember, like I told you last time, you're a legend, just like Stairway to Heaven.
Yes.
Well,
I'm,
thank
and
you,
I'm
sir,
bowing
Michael.
to you too, buddy.
Thank you, Sir Sean. I appreciate you guys a lot. Do I sign off or you
Appreciate
sign
you.
me off?
You can sign off.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
I'll take you
care.
out. You
All
too,
right,
buddy.
brother. Love you.
I'm out.
Ah,
I can't hear nothing.
can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. So awesome guest, dude. Awesome.
Yeah.
He's still in. He can't get out. I don't want to hit the red button because he might knock our show off. You know what I mean? So
He'll figure
sorry,
out.
Ron. Yeah, he's laughing. But yeah, it was a great show. Thank you very much for coming up
It
with
felt
the
like I was a
ideas.
little mined from the cold and whatever I've been going through.
You were perfect, brother. You were perfect.
I felt I was missing in action in ways. I mean, I just still don't feel great, and I apologize,
Okay.
everybody. Hey, you know what? The fascinating guest to bring on and introduce out into the world. A lot of people know who he is. Um, I mean, incredible life, just like he said. TV shows, radio shows, lecturings, being invited all over the world to talk. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal.
And
And
to come on our show.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
he's been with me more than once. And again, I think we have a closeness in a way that is, I'm very grateful for. I really am. And, he's just a generous person, very generous with his time and his heart. And I'll be there for him if he needs anything, most certainly. And if something comes up close by, we might go do a road trip just to surprise him.
yeah,
Because I put my support to the people who will, of course, come into our show, and we got to, sometimes a road trip means more to a person to see you in person than if that makes any sense. But you got to have the initiative to do it. Take
right.
that first step in order to get to that spot, just like we did the other night when we went and did that paranormal thing. You don't have that experience unless you show up.
Right.
So, sometimes road trips, even though they're a headache, you bring joy to somebody else and you show up for them. And I know I could just sit down with him and have lunch and it would be like two brothers just talking. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Dude.
Yeah.
Exactly. But okay, everybody. We're coming to the segment of Chasing Prophecy, which is into the night. And we're going to take a little 30-second because, to be honest with everybody, I need some nicotine. So we're going to take a 30-second break, and we'll be back. And please stick around. Please don't leave. Please
Play some music, white boy.
Be right back. If I can find it. There it is. 30 seconds. Well, welcome back into this segment with Into the Night on the third hour of the Chasing Prophecy show. My name's Sean Kelly, and there's my co-host there, Michael Anthony, and he's waving. He's saying, "Hey,
good evening, and thanks for not leaving."
Yes.
Hey, that like rhymes.
I know it did. Look, it was kind of cool, man. But what I'd like to talk about tonight, okay, is some of the investigations that I went on a long time ago.
Right.
And there's one up in Leechburg, and it's called the Old How do you say that? It's an old church up in Leechburg that turned into a B&B.
Okay.
When I think of the name, I will give it a call. I will tell you. But I remember when this guy, he opened it up, was just starting to work on it, never advertised for it. And we went up there, and it was a really, really good investigation. What was really cool is that we were in the chapel. And I want to share this story with everybody about residual hauntings. Now, residual haunting is when a spirit is doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. All right.
Stuck in a loop.
Yes. So we were up there, and it was midnight, and all of a sudden the church got real cold. It got really cold. And what happened was somebody was videoing all these orbs walking up the steps. Okay. And they were sitting in the pews. Orbs, I mean, they were separate in the pews. And about 12:30, they all like floated back down out of the church, right? Hi, Holly, how are you? That's Holly, my buddy. And
hi, Holly, my buddy.
Yeah, she's a good girl. But
the radio show.
And what happened was, come 1 o'clock, Michael, it started all over again. Same amount of orbs come up the steps, 12, 1, 1:30. I mean, it was pretty crazy on this residual. And,
were you able to see the orbs with your own eyes?
Yes, there were some orbs that you could see. And it was just really, really interesting. Now, the B&B part, like remember where the nuns used to live? They lived right next to it.
The convents, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they have rooms there now, and they had beds. They were making it a B&B, and we were there for 2 nights. And this is up in Leechburg, and it was just a great investigation. Everything brought back a lot of old memories today when I was at work. And that was done about 12, 13 years ago. And back then, we never did advertise, to go to places for investigations. Everything was word of mouth. And when this guy called me up, I said, well, how did you find out about Pittsburgh Paranormal Society? And he said, I heard it from a friend who lived in Freeport. It wasn't my cousin, right? And So we went up, took my very good friend up in Gettysburg. Him and his wife came down from Gettysburg, and they joined with us on the investigation. And just how I was talking to Ron earlier about how when they go away on the trips, everybody just gets together and sits down. You know what I mean? Talks about different things. Well, it was one of those days investigations where it came into play to where we got to see each other. And that was the coolest thing about investigations, especially whenever we would have other groups come in, or my friends from Gettysburg would come in. And, Mike, to be honest with you, pal, I miss it. I really do. I do miss it. I thought I never would, but I do miss the camaraderie. I hope I said that right. And I don't know. I just wanted to share about this place from Leesburg. I mean, the guy fed us. He fed us breakfast and lunch. There was a restaurant down there on the main street, and we had dinner there. And we actually investigated that place after we got done investigating the Patriot. I've been saying it all day. What it's going to be, what's the name of this place. And do you know what, Michael? When it comes to the time for me to say it, I just forget the word.
Well, I can understand you having that, flash spark or whatever you're feeling for missing it. I mean, it's something that you enjoyed. So that makes perfect sense. Which brings me to this. If anybody out there has an issue or a haunting and you'd like to have some help, we know people far and abroad who can possibly help you with that, as well as us right here.
Mm-hmm.
And contact Sean, you just never know. We'll show up with the crew and do an investigation and see if we can assist you. Just contact us on the show, and or through our Facebook pages, Sean Kelly or Michael Anthony, and a little detailed message of why you're trying to get a hold of us, issue you're having, leave a phone number, and we'll contact you back. We are going to be doing some things this upcoming summer. Still waiting for the weather to change a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's just, we're hanging on to last month. It was warmer last month than it is now. But, anyway, doesn't matter. We're going to be out and about. And if you have any hot spots for Bigfoot in the Pennsylvania area or for UFOs, if you think you got a hot spot, please contact us. Let us know where they are. We'd love to hear from you. England?
Yeah, that's Virgil.
Hello, England. How are you? We don't travel that far.
That's on my bucket list. I was in the service. I was stationed over in Scotland for a year and a half, but being a dumbass I sat in bars and I drank, so I never really got to go sightseeing over it. But I would like to go back over to Scotland again, and instead of going to the bars, go visit the sites, because I will tell you this, it's very, very pretty over there, very green. The only downfall about it is it rains too much. Holly says, I missed where Ron was from, but if you wanted to invite him this way, I saw on Bill Rigby's Facebook page that there is going to be some kind of doings about paranormal, UFO, cryptids, etc. at a high rise in Lindora, PA. Thanks, Holly. Do you know when the date is on that?
They talking about that paranormal thing going on in Lindora, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I was at it last year. I met Bill Rigby up there and hung out with him for maybe a couple hours, maybe an hour.
Did you enjoy it, though?
Pardon me?
Did you enjoy it?
I didn't really go in. I was hanging out with Bill. I pretty much knew who all the speakers were, and I knew what they were all going to say.
Mm-hmm.
If you follow this, you're going to know what the people are going to lecture about. So I'm not trying to be negative. I stayed out front with Bill at the entrance door and was just shooting the shit with him. Because, like I said, I had to head up to camp and so forth. But I was there. I hung out with some of the people that I knew. Bill Rigby was one of them. And after a short stay, just hanging out, I headed north, and that's what I did. But I knew I was going to be going through town, or I could take my way through that part of town and stop. So I thought it was the honorable thing to do. Show up, say hi to everybody, whatnot. And that's what I did.
I know they got one coming up in September. That's where our what was his name? He'll be on the 30th. He wrote that book.
Max,
yeah. Max is going to that one up there.
No, he'll be in Lindor.
I think it's Lindor. I'm not sure. There was another Bigfoot UFO type of thing going on. But, since we're still part of Chasing Prophecy, and yes, I basically lost everything, what I wanted to talk about. So we have some important news that we could share with our people if you would like to do that this Sunday. Would you like to take it away?
This Sunday at 9:00.
Yes.
We will also be joining you live on Facebook, YouTube, and many other theatrical social media platforms, as well as 107.7, 105.3, Mississippi and New Orleans on UPRN radio. Between 9 and 11, it's a hot spot. And Joe, back in the producing department, had made this arrangement for a little test type spot.
Yep.
And told you if we wanted it, we could have it. And that should be pretty fascinating because we're already doing something on Sundays and just generating some public notoriety on some of the smaller platforms. But now we're going to be on all the worldwide syndicate stuff that we are on Chasing Prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be able to hear us on Sunday nights. We'll talk paranormal. We'll talk just everything. Conspiracies. I mean, we're not going to take anything off the table, and we can bring anything on the table we want.
Right.
That came from the producers. Said, no worries. Talk about whatever you guys want to. You've got listeners. So we're going to do the best we can for you to keep you interested. We'll also do open line phone calls. So make a note. Sunday night around 9:00. Get your coffee, your popcorn, a beer, a glass of wine, whatever it takes. We're going to talk ghost stories and everything. Look forward to it. We'll be starting that this upcoming Sunday.
Yes, sir. And I am really, really looking forward to it. I mean, like you were saying before, it is the best spot during the week, Sunday night, 9 to 11. And I enjoyed doing a show with Michael. We hit it off okay, and I enjoy it. Well, he hates it when I tell you this, but I do learn a lot from him. And so it's just going to be even better. And I think it's going to work out. I really believe that. What is the name of our show?
America Disclosing Uncensored.
Let me type that in. All right.
Sure.
America Disclosing. Oh, okay. America. I don't know. I'm tired, buddy.
I know. Here's the thing. They asked us to do 3 hours, and it's not hard to do.
No, it isn't. If my job would actually let me, would schedule me early on Tuesdays.
Jobs don't do things that make your life easier. They dictate life to you. That's what the alarm clock does. This is what I tell everybody. The invention of the alarm clock wasn't to tell you when it was going to be 9 in the morning. It's going to tell you it's time to wake the hell up and get ready for work. It's time to wake the hell up and get the kids ready for school. It's time for this. It's time for that. It's time for dinner. You know, it's time to take the kids to the park. It's time to take the dog for a walk. It's all about time because they connected time into our lives as a control mechanism. That's, I mean, you know, otherwise we wouldn't even have to worry about it. Just look in the sky, know whereabouts the sun is, and you know what time it is. I mean, you know, plenty of times people say to me, you know, the kids or something, say, what time is it? And I'd say, well, by looking at where the sun is, it's probably getting near 4 o'clock. And they, you know, sometimes grin at me like, yeah, sure. And then they look at the clock and, oh, you're right. You know, it's what you get used to. The ancients had to look at the sky and figure out ways to track time, which they did, and the adjustments came, and here we're living them.
Because, like you said, I'm tired of looking at a clock. You know what I mean? I don't even want to look at a clock. When I'm at work, I know when 2 hours comes up, I'll just glance up at the clock and I know it's 2 hours. Do you know what I mean? And but with the daylight saving, you know, with the daylight savings time for me, I just know when it's 9 o'clock and it's still freaking light out. You know what I mean? And then it's like 6 o'clock in the wintertime and it's dark. It's dark. And so it just, I don't know. But I thought my job would be pretty cool by letting me work kind of early because, to be honest with you, dude, honestly, if I got done at 2, then I'd take my nap and I'd be a little bit more prepared for this third hour. You know what I mean? I have no problem doing 3 hours. But how can you do a show when you had a very, very, very outstanding guest for the first 2?
You mean, how do you do a third hour?
Yeah, I mean, our guests were.
Do what you're doing now. I mean, come on, man, have some faith in yourself here. Do what you're doing now. All right, so here, maybe I can help you with this. Sex, lies, and castles. Is it possible that Princess Diana had a daughter? We're going to go diving deep into that, possibly next week, as we dig in for some more information to get some more verification. There may be some truth behind it. Will it be fact or fiction? You'll have to wait to find out next Sunday.
Yes.
I told you I'd find a way to put it in.
Yeah, I know. It kind of like, I'm glad that you did. But you know what? I watch Tech Talk a lot. And whenever they were having the coronation going on over there, right? Everybody was like, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that reptilian. Look at that ET there. Look at that. And then, like, I'm thinking to myself when I'm watching these things, I'm like, do I need to fall for this? Or is there some kind of truth into it? But I kind of like it. You know what I mean? I do like it. And another thing that I hear, and you can probably help me out if you want to, I hear a lot of people on TikTok say that Hillary Clinton's dead, Joe Biden's dead, and it's just clones. And same way with Pelosi, she didn't get arrested. I'm just wondering, what I wonder is, how do these people know if they're dead or not? Can you help me out here a little bit?
You know, the ones that are dead?
Yeah. I mean, you look at a picture of Joe Biden and he put another one up there next, and they're totally different people. Seriously. Same way with Nancy
I
Pelosi.
know there's some indifferences of, and there are some elements of mask wearing and body doubles. You know, I would say this to everybody: until I see a body, I won't believe it. Um, I think a lot of what America is looking at right now is the same thing that I've mentioned all along for the past 3 years. You know, every division of social media even has been interjected with spineless bullshit people who create narratives to control most people. Meaning, if they can make you believe in something that gives you hope, that cognitive dissonance bullshit that was mentioned actually by Ron also,
Yeah.
uh, then possibly people will get lost in it and not know what to believe, because what is real won't seem to actually weigh with any benefit, even though it's fact. So, you know, I mean, when you hear about 17 and QAnon and all these theories, all these dates that come, and all these dates that are gone, and this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and Trump's going to be back in office. None of it's genuine. People are lost in the fact that they believe it's genuine news. And I say it's basically all just made up to keep people compliant, to believe that there's something bigger going to happen. It's always going to come. It never does, but it will. But it never does, but it's going to. But it never does, but it's going to get here eventually. Yeah, maybe by the time the next election comes around. And that's the only way back in. But by doing that, it keeps people controlled and busy enough to keep researching on stuff, so you're not watching the true component of the lies and the agenda that's being placed in front of you. You're too busy tied up being watched into all these other narratives. It's not always what looks important that is important. I'll just say that. And so, I mean, that gives you a little bit of my theory of my conspiracy there. I thought you were going to tell me something about this Nemacolin Castle at 136 Front Street, Brownsville, PA, 15417. What is that about?
The Nemacolin Castle. Oh my God! Like back in 2006 when I first started PPS. I call Nemacolin Castle. It's huge, huge. I don't know the backstory behind it, but we always heard that it was haunted, right? And so it was around Christmas because they had people, singing Christmas carols and walking around. They were doing a little tour of the place. And after the tours was over, then we got to go in. And there was a lot of amazing things that happened that night. And the coolest story in the world, and there's like 6, 7 people that actually witnessed this. Some of them like me now, some of them don't. A lot of them don't. But we were in the room. It was a little girl's room. And there, the old rocking horses where they rock back and forth?
Hobby horse, right?
Yeah. Okay. It started to go back and forth by itself.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then a guy came up and he told it to go faster. Can you make that horse go faster? Honest to God, dude, it was it was crazy. Then who's this? Who's good evening, gentlemen? Finally made it. Oh, we have a dude from Ghana in here too. Ghana.
Hello, Ghana. How are you, brother? Or sister?
Yeah, that's the first. But it was such an interesting investigation. They will not let groups go down there anymore to investigate because other groups ruined it for other groups, and I know it was like one of the best ones ever. Now, if you look at the mirrors, and this was interesting, the old mirrors back then. Oh, it's Squatch. It's Squatch again. Hey, Squatch. So the old mirrors that were in the rooms were on the top of the dressers. You all right there, brother? I hope
Not
you're
really.
okay, man. But what it is that there was some type of aluminum um, type of paint on it, and what happens is when a flash hits it, who's ever sitting in front of that mirror actually imprints it on the mirror. Okay.
Hmm.
So we had a guy there. He got that picture. He was all excited, going crazy bananas. He got the best picture ever. His ego went off the deep end, and so we went back for the reveal to show them what we got. And here, that picture of the girl and the dog sitting in her lap was actually imprinted on that mirror. And what the person told us was, who owned the place, said that the girl and the dog were probably sitting looking into the mirror, and there was a real, big bright lightning that went off, and it actually put a picture into that mirror. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I've been trying to get down there to Nemacolin, but they just won't let it happen. And then there's Prospect Place down in Trimway, Ohio. That was the first place that I ever went to out of Pittsburgh. And back in the early 1900s, the family that owned it down there, they owned the railroads down there in Ohio. And damn, you won't be on die on me.
I'm not going to die.
I hope not.
Walk away from the microphone.
Okay.
It's like a scratch.
But what happened was we went down to Prospect, and what else? The family who owned the mansion actually worked the railroad, but they were also part of the Underground Railroad.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's always interesting.
it is.
The last place we were at too had a little bit of that going on down there at the Ross place.
Yes.
Where there was that blocked off, sealed section under the sidewalk, but in the foundation of the front of the building.
Yes.
And I was just wondering, it was a good theory, but I wonder if they ever had a cold furnace and that could have been a cold chute. Although story was that the myth of it all was that it was some type of tunnel used to get down to the river, which makes a lot of sense too. But a lot of people forget the fact that you can have a new sidewalk put in at some point and cover over what once was there because there's no need anymore for the coal chute. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I really wanted to ask the owner about that and see if she had any information. I totally forgot about it. So for now, it's up in the air on that. It's something maybe in the future someday we could find out more on. But go ahead.
I know Kristen who owned the other house. In her basement,
Yeah.
there is a tunnel that goes down to the river.
You talking about the Blair house?
Blair House, yeah. Bel Air House, yeah.
Bel Air, yeah.
And yeah, she said that there's a tunnel that goes down to the river. Down in Elizabeth, PA, my friend Sue, down in her cellar, there's also a caveway. Where the underground, where all the African Americans came through, in the Underground Railroad. A lot of places like that, like old places that we have gone and investigated, always have something to do with the Underground Railroad. But back to Prospect Place.
But did you go enter into the tunnel?
Oh God, no, dude! They had that blocked off.
Yeah. See, I don't like when they do that.
I couldn't anyway. I would be like, They were small. They were small, but
Well, I understand that, but I mean, it is the way it is. But, back in the day, I mean, there were tunnels all over the place.
right.
And that to me, that's a major fascination. Um, like, what were they doing? I mean,
Hmm.
what's the truth behind what story's real, which one's false? And the only thing you can do is go to the historians, go above the owners, go to the historians, and really try to look for the information into the area and see what you can pick up. As many good people who do research would do anyway. But I hope I get the opportunity at some point to get through one of these. I mean, not everything out there sealed. You just hope you're invited to the right place where you can
Right.
actually go through one and observe it.
But that would be great. You can do that. 'Cause sure as hell no, I couldn't fit through it. But with today, liabilities and crap like that. But you know what? Let me ask around and I'll see what I can come up with, Mike. And maybe we could take a
You're
ride
gonna
and go
take me
down.
up the tunnel.
Yeah, I'll throw you in the tunnel. Say go, be a tunnel rat. But no, but at Prospect Place, there was a girl that committed suicide, and it was in December. And at that time, the ground was frozen. So, in the cellar of this mansion, they put her body into it was a makeshift ice, like a freezer, okay. And
Yeah.
they threw her on the ice um, to wait until the weather warmed up a little bit so they could actually give her a proper burial. Um, and they claim that her ghost walks around that place. It is haunted, but it isn't a bad haunt. A lot of people you'll see on Ghost Hunters or whatever who actually filmed down there, they have the top. It was crazy because the top floor, it was actually where they went dancing on the top floor. Right, it was a big dance hall up there, and somebody put an upside down cross, and they said this is the gateway to hell. You know what I mean? Just to liven it up, and so a lot of people go up there. But I had an experience up there where they had the little boy would hang around um, up there, and they were balls all over the place. And what I encountered was that the little boy was kicking the ball to other people, not hard, you know, just like a little touch, but the ball actually moved. Now, whenever we went in to debunk everything, the floor was, on a tilt. It was very uneven, but where the ball was located, it was like the only flat surface there. So I had a lot of. But
Well, even when floors have imperfections in them, you can always place the ball somewhere where it's going to sit still. You know what I mean? It
right,
will find itself and rest. After it finds itself and it rests in a permanency of a spot, and then you reach out for contact, it's going to be the energy moving it.
right, exactly. Facebook user says the riverfront in Savannah, Georgia. They are accessible also. You would absolutely love it. Many hauntings down there.
Yeah, Savannah's big
Oh my God, dude.
when it comes to that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's like Night of the Living Dead down there when you go through all those stories that exist there. Um, but yeah, you got to travel out to get to them. Doing 2 shows a week, living life. Got to. I would love to go and do things like that, but you just can't. Uh,
Just stop and take off.
Yeah, you just can't. I got something better to do. I'll be back on the show in a week or two. No, you're dropped. You're dropped. You can't do that. So here we are trying to figure it out. We'll figure out something. We'll do some things. We'll put up some live feeds from wherever we are. We have access to some things already. We're just making conversation here. But yeah, I wish I could go down to Savannah for a few days and check it out like that, and get some shows under our belt where we have something in the archive where, Joe can just hit a button and,
throw it on. Yep.
Because all we're trying to do is build more anyway, from the direction we want to go. So yeah, pretty cool. But go ahead.
When I was on investigations and I was on Chasing Prophecy, I always made the point that I would be on the show because I always had my computer, you know what I mean? And when I remember I was down in Virginia and we had a show, and I was on it, you know what I mean? So
I've done them from my phone before too.
Yeah.
You never know if it's going to work 100%.
Oh, but because believe it or not, you figure hotels would have good Wi-Fi. They actually don't. You know what I mean? They don't.
Yeah. They probably do. I'm probably just overthinking it.
I hope you feel better there, brother.
I got like a deep scratch this evening. That's all I can tell you. I don't know.
In the throat?
Yeah.
Wow.
I've had so many different symptoms. Whatever I caught, it's pathetic. And that's the truth. From fever, body aches, sore throats to the throat. Not really a sore throat, a scratchy throat.
Right.
A little bit of congestion, body aches back, just up and down, back and forth. And I tried to just rest and whatnot to the point where, I couldn't even make myself rest. You know what I mean? I was doing all the right things, but I can't make anything happen any quicker than it is as far as that part. But yeah, sorry I sound so terrible.
I just want you to get better, dude. I just want you to get better.
I'll have my day in time.
So, what do you think they're doing to us?
Who?
Let it rip. What's making us all sick? Everyone's sick. Let it rip.
What do I think they're doing to us?
Yeah.
All right, give me a second here.
So we had a good show. Well, there he is. He's back.
Oh, I really needed the cough hard. That's all I can tell you. So everything that they've always been doing. But Durham's back. Something that I always told everybody. Trust until the dust settles. And it did. And it's in the people's favor. I mean, the report's written. It's nothing to do with Trump. It's to do with all of our 3- and 4-letter law enforcement agencies. And it's in his report marked that way. Mm-hmm. So, I think people are excited about that. Trump is highly irate about what's going on, what Biden's doing to the country. And you can actually hear in his own voice his disgust. He made a comment, I think it was the night before last, and he was very boisterous. He wasn't very happy at all about the ongoings of our country and this president, so-called, up there. But, nothing could change it. What I think we're looking at is long-term more bullshit. And it's sad to say, but it's true. Let's just say there doesn't seem to be anybody that can man up enough to try to make anything change. Mm-hmm. Now, whistleblowers are missing.
Yeah, I heard about the one that died, got killed.
Yeah. So now we have a different scenario of issue going on. These people are not afraid to make moves, the same as they're not afraid to make moves on us. So, what do I get out of it all tonight? Buckle up. It's going to be a tough ride. It really is. I don't think there's anybody coming to save us. And like I said, everything that you're seeing out there is they're conditioning you to keep you busy so they can get away with more. And I think your money's okay. I'll say that. And why I'm saying your money's okay is they're bringing in new drugs now. So it's animal tranquilizers mixed with fentanyl. It's a little bit different. It's highly deadly. Narcan won't save anybody from it. Keep your families aware. Talk to your children. Be smart. Put your foot up the kids' butts. Let them know that you know. And you got to teach them. It's a shame you got to put this into a home platform educational system, but you have to do it. But here's the thing. You can't have 50,000 soldiers working across the United States selling drugs and working off digital currency, trackable currency. They can't just stop the cash. So relax. They're going to try to collect all the green out there that they can while they're doing their sales. And as long as, you see this objective happening, your money's still good. Nothing's just going to end. It won't. I mean, they were cooking their own gooses,
Exactly.
And too many people that they're already working with are expecting more, and they want it in the form of greenage. Unless they come to a new conclusion, like we're going to only deal diamonds and rubies, and
Right.
which is doubtful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we got to have a gemologist with you every time you do a dope deal. That ain't gonna happen. That's not going to happen either. But
No.
I just think people need to buckle up, stay tight, stay strong, prepare for the worst, and hope for the best. But we don't see anything coming. But we do see plans in place. How well will they be acted at? No one really knows. Everything so far up till now, we've had no convictions of anybody or anything or anyone. Are these people dead or alive? They're alive. They're not dead. Trump would address them as dead. He would actually do that if there was something like that going on. Not saying that these people aren't playing with a second deck in some ways with different actors. They are, but for now, that doesn't even matter. What should matter is how you can stay focused and protect yourself from the social anxieties that seem to be occurring. I don't see anything, in my view, that anything is going to happen terribly bad that has to do with America. If anything terribly bad happens besides the border and we see what's going on there, send 1,500 troops to stop them. And yet, in the hours of darkness, they're bringing them through another way.
Yep.
So they're not even stopping it. It's business as usual. They're just going to make things look like they should. Same with drag queens. Well, they were at St. Paul's the other night. Now they're going to be over at Hail Mary's or whatever you want to call it tomorrow. Once you find out about them, they move. They're like a snake in the grass. And once they get done with those ones, they'll pick another location and they'll put on some kind of show. So fight for your kids, stay strong, pay attention to the school systems, and just be alert. Be alert.
And on that note, thank you, Michael, for sharing that. But we are getting close to the witching hour, and I do want to say to everybody, thank you for watching the 3-hour show. It was a good show. It really, really was. And all the moms out there, I hope you had a very wonderful Mother's Day. I hope you got some flowers and cakes and stuff like that, whatever you wanted, just so you spent time with your children. That's the biggie, to spend time with the children. I got to spend time with my mom. All right. And I do every day because, I do take care of her. right? But it seemed a little bit extra special this time around. And I'm kind of like, I'm happy. It was a wonderful, wonderful weekend on that.
Cool.
And I just want to say, and I say it every night, every Tuesday night. Okay, everybody, parents, please go to your children and give them a hug. And children, please go to your parents and give them a hug and tell them, I love you. Now, if you don't have no parents, you don't have no children, please find somebody that, you can give a hug and say, I love you. Because you know what? Those 3 words, I love you, go a far, far way. And again, it is May, it is Mental Illness Month. Please, please, I beg you, please, to go give somebody a hug who needs help. Sit down and listen to them. Listen to them talk. Give them an ear. That's all you need to do. Give them an ear. Give them a hug. And you know what? They will definitely appreciate it. Because when I'm in that spot, and you all know that I do talk freely about my mental illness, okay? When someone comes up, gives me a hug and tells me, hey, you're all right, hey, that makes my whole day. Sometimes it makes my whole week. And on that note, we'll see you next Tuesday, 7:10 p.m. We got a good guest coming on next week. You'll definitely enjoy her. And I just want to wish everybody good night and have a nice, wonderful week.
Good night, everybody. Take care.